is suing production company owner James Paul for a refund of the money he paid to make a music video. James is countersuing for slander and defamation of character.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 153 on the calendar in the matter of Howard versus Paul. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sirs, have seats.
Mr. Howard, according to your complaint, sir, you retained the defendant's services in making a video. You gave him a deposit of $5,000. You canceled the project, and you want your deposit back.
Yes,
is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant says that he did a lot of work on your video. If you didn't want to continue, that's your problem. And he is heard. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, what I heard them say, she says, you Mexicans never know when to leave.
I work in a Mexican restaurant.
Just a second. So that's, okay, wait just a second. So that's what you say you heard her say to your niece?
Yes. You Mexicans never know when to leave. Hazel says, I didn't know we had a time limit. And she says, yes, that's why nobody wants you people around.
No.
She told her. And then she proceeded to light a cigarette because she had been on her way out. And she tells her, you can't smoke here. It's a non-smoking area. And then she says, and besides, you're just jealous of my white skin and my blonde hair. Then turned around and walked out.
Go ahead.
So, you know, like, blood started boiling, but my daughter grabbed me at this time because there were some friends, other friends of ours there that we hadn't seen in a while. So then afterwards I went looking for her. I felt she was being very rude. I approached her. I was on my way to approach her to discuss the situation. I put my finger up at her to, you know, to make the point. The two busboys jumped me at that time, grabbed me, and I do have some injuries and some, I'm disabled. I am on disability. I have metal fusions on my neck, arthritis spondylosis.
You never brought this
on
up.
my neck. I've since then been, I've had 6 surgeries and been diagnosed with fibromyalgia and all this stuff. Anyway, so I can't move. I can't do that kind of stuff. I approached her. The bus boys jumped me before I even said a word. And they started, and they pulled my arms back, which causes a great deal of pain for me. So I started yelling and screaming, let me go, let me go. So my son saw this, and he came over. He says, I'll take her out. Don't worry about her. So he got me by the arm, and we went out.
How do you think she got the scratches on her face, Miss Saez?
I have no idea. As a matter of fact, if you don't mind, I'd like to see the pictures. Sure. Because APD and the fire department were there. They checked her. And, you know, according to the police report, it says that they just let her go. It says battery, but they didn't arrest me. Had they found any marks on her or anything, and it's an assault, they would have arrested me.
They said they couldn't arrest her, that I would have to press charges. They didn't even arrest the people that assaulted my customer, and he was bleeding from head to toe.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Waitress Michelle Yukevich says she was assaulted on the job by customer Margaret Seiss. Margaret says Michelle insulted her with a racial slur.
So my question to you is, why didn't you press charges on her? Is there any reason?
Oh, it took me 45 days to get the police report, like seriously. And then I was waiting to go down and press charges. I know it's been a little while, but I mean, it's been in the back of my head.
It's not going to happen. Okay.
Had I hit her?
Ms. Saez, I believe you made contact with the plaintiff. Let me tell you that.
No, I didn't.
Let me tell you why I believe you made contact with all of your disabilities. Because when someone is assaulted, they want the person responsible to compensate them or be punished. If she were assaulted by somebody else, you wouldn't be here. She said that you assaulted her. According to your own statement, you were hot, you got furious, according to you, when you heard her make comments to your niece, and you were hot then. Then you went back to find her. And you didn't go back to find her just to have a discussion, because by that time, things were starting to get rowdy between the tables on your side and the tables on the other side, because this looks to me as if it turned into a free-for-all. So you had not only the opportunity, but you had the mental capacity at that moment to strike out at her.
Your Honor, I wear these rings all the time, plus other ones. I just toned it down a little bit. These would have left some big bruises had I punched her.
Look at
the way the tables are set in the restaurant, there is no way that you can get her against the wall. And on her police report, She says on here that I was smoking, that I was seated in a non-smoking area, which I wasn't.
Police got confused, but the whole story, the story that I get in the complaint...
No, but she says that she came back,
listen
and
to me,
she
the
didn't
stories
talk
that,
to me,
the
she
stories
talked
that,
to her.
The stories that you both told today are totally consistent. Now, the police, in the course of taking down a report, may not get everything right, but the stories that you both told me today were consistent with regard to what happened with your niece, that she told her not to smoke, whatever words were exchanged. And I'm not sure that I'm getting the whole story about the words that were exchanged, because it seemed to me absolutely ludicrous for the plaintiff.
What she said is an absolute lie, Your Honor. All I have to back me up is the truth. Yeah. And when he swore me in, I swore to do that. I would never was the word ganga used, anything like that. Nothing like that was ever said. I don't know where she got this from.
Just a minute. But according to you, the word was said.
Oh, it was.
Just a minute. According to you, the word bitch was said by your niece.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah, I believe that. What I'm telling you, Ms. Saez, is that what the police took down quickly in their notes did not reflect what happened on that day, which was basically she told her not to smoke. They get into some words. You're overhearing words that they're getting into, and you decided to have a confrontation with her, which you did. You not only decided to have a confrontation with her at that moment that you heard it, but you got rid of your mother or your aunt or whoever else it was, and you went back to find her. Again, you went back to confront her. Because according to you, Ms. Saez, you were boiling at what you heard her say. And then you went to find her. That's what you said. You said, I went to find her.
Because she was making such horrible racist remarks, and unless someone is there to receive those names, if you're not there at the other end, will never know how you feel. You feel humiliated, degraded. She made me feel like an alien.
Oh,
and I don't mean like an alien from across the border. I'm talking about from Mars or something. Never did that.
You are a grown-up, madam. Grown-ups know that words...
I understand that.
Words are different from acting physically.
When someone is being a racist,
yes,
it is going to cause problems. No one likes to be labeled with names.
So what kind of problems is it going to cause? What kind of... Hey, Ms. Saez, you see what you're doing?
Exactly. This is what she was doing.
No. This is what you're doing.
And this is why I got angry. And unless you're on that receiving end...
You got angry and you hit her. It's going to cost you $2,500.
Receive that.
Period. End of discussion. Sticks and stones, break my bones, names will never hurt me. You report it to the manager, you never go back to the restaurant, but you don't go over there and assault her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500, that's all.
Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
None of that ever happened. Absolutely none of it happened.
Margaret, proved my case just by her actions.
Knock the out of the person, if you can.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Dagrapont versus Sierra. Step forward, please.
67-year-old Paul Dagrapont is suing 28-year-old car salesperson Vanessa Sierra for the cost of a new puppy. Paul says when his granddaughter's Maltese was in Vanessa's care, the dog ran away and was hit by a car.
Your granddaughter, I assume this is your granddaughter, had a little Maltese dog, and she wanted to breed and have a litter of puppies from her dog. You got the defendant's name. The defendant had a male Maltese. You brought your granddaughter's dog to the defendant's home for the purposes of having this liaison. And left her there, which was standard procedure, I assume. Is that right?
I've never bred a dog before, so I don't know what standard procedure is.
I haven't either.
Well, hopefully the dogs know better than you do. In any event, having done that sort of thing a couple of times myself, that's what usually happens. You bring the dog and they try to get acquainted so that there is a little, for want of a better, there's a little foreplay. They sort of get to know each other and like each other and stuff. But while the dog was in your care, the dog ran away. You want to be compensated for the dog because you believe it was the defendant's responsibility. Why do you think this was not your responsibility?
It's not that it's not my responsibility. I'm really sorry for what happened.
Of course you are.
It was just a strange situation. No agreement was ever, handwritten agreement was ever made. I mean, if I was a mean person or a bad person, I could have just simply denied having the dog. There was no proof or evidence that the dog was ever at my house.
I don't understand that. If you were a bad or a mean person. He brought the dog to your house. Your agreement was that you were going to be paid for the breeding?
Correct.
Okay. How much were you supposed to be paid?
We never agreed upon a price.
We're going to discuss the fee later. Is that all correct, Mr. Davenport?
Yes.
So I still don't understand why you don't think you're responsible. The dogs were playing in the backyard, and his dog got away.
Right. The dog was brought to me on the day before New Year's Eve. I called him that evening to let him know that the dogs hadn't, as you called it, gotten acquainted or had their liaison, so to speak. They weren't actually getting along. My dog was chasing his dog around the house, and she didn't seem at all interested. He told me to go ahead and keep the dog overnight, which I did. I did inform him that I do work. I work the next day 9 to 9, and I would not be home. He asked me if anybody would be home. I told him my brothers and my father would.
Okay. So he did ask who would be around.
My brother put both dogs in the yard, and I do have pictures of my dog and the yard, which is completely enclosed. My brother went back to check on the dogs. He let them do their business because he didn't, this is very important, he didn't give me a leash. When he dropped off the dog, he didn't even come in the house. He just handed me the dog. I couldn't put the dog in the front yard to, you know, do its bathroom business. So we put him in the backyard, my brother did. And when he went back, within half an hour, the dog was gone. They went out, we spent the entire New Year's Eve.
Did you find out how the dog got away?
No, that's the thing. I have pictures. My dog was still in the yard. My dog didn't get out. We don't know how the dog got out.
Maybe somebody stole her. Yeah. Somehow the dog got away.
Right. And I'm not disputing that fact.
So you have to pay for the dog.
Well, I mean, the dog should have been picked up earlier in the day. I wasn't home. I mean, I'm really sorry for what happened, and then...
Miss Sierra, the dog was entrusted to your care in a business relationship. You were going to be paid for the purposes of breeding the dog. If the dog was left in your care, was not returned, you have to pay for the dog. Simple. Did you replace the puppy for your granddaughter?
Yes, we did.
You did. And do you have the bill for the replacement puppy?
We have pictures of the puppy. This is the new puppy, and these are the pictures of the old ones.
Oh, this time you got her a little Yorkie. How's the new puppy?
Playful.
Looks adorable. Step up near your granddaddy. A girl or a boy?
A girl.
What did you name her?
Minnie.
How old is she now?
I think 10 or 11 weeks.
You taking good care of her?
Yeah.
Good. How much did you pay for Minnie?
$700.
You have the bill?
I don't have the bill on the new dog. I have a canceled check on the old one, and this is the posters that we put up looking for when Rice was missing. And we have bills from the veterinarian that they require baby shots, so to speak.
Okay, let me see the bill for the Maltese, please, and the vet shots.
We put 150 of these posters out in the neighborhood looking for her. When we finally found her, you know, she was dead.
She had been hit by a car?
By a car.
I assume that somehow she got out because if somebody had stolen her.
I don't, like I said, I have pictures of the yard completely enclosed.
Well, maybe your brother accidentally opened up the front door. I don't know. Dorothy, cost of the dog was $625, and all the vet bills with the cost of the dog come to $1,011. Judgment for the plaintiff. I'm glad you got a new puppy.
Thank you.
Is suing her ex-boyfriend, electrician Bobby Tierno, for damaging her property after they split up. Bobby says he was just trying to help her move.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 312 on the calendar in the matter of Collins versus Tierno. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Collins, your complaint against the defendant is as follows. You lived together for a brief period of time. You decided that the relationship wasn't for you. You were moving out. According to you, the defendant became a little hostile, had a hissy fit, and damaged your property, your car and personal property. He says, well, there might have been some weakness in the car that caused the damage. He really didn't do anything. Right, sir?
Yes.
Okay. How long did you live together?
It was about 3 months.
Okay. And what date did you decide to move out?
It was in August, the 23rd. Actually, it's 22nd.
Okay, so tell me what happened.
I was packing boxes to put in the car and had the hatchback open, and he came in.
Your car has a hatchback.
Yes.
According to
yes. And he saw the boxes and started freaking out, getting mad. Oh yeah, you want to leave? Go ahead. And I'll help you. And just start loading boxes out and taking and dumping them. And he
dumping
him in the car, like in a big pile. And one of the boxes, my video camera came flying out and just broke it.
So he was helping you pack.
Helping, exactly.
And putting the things in the hatchback.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened?
Then on top of everything else, he put my stereo, my speakers, and he was trying to close the back, and he was doing like over and over, and he did it really hard, and the window broke. It was just a mess.
So that's the property damage that you're complaining of?
Yes.
Because there was glass all over your clothes, and it shattered, and whatever. Okay.
And paints, my paints were back there, I just dumped them out, and they were on my good suits and everything, and so that's what happened to my suits.
Well, what
paint and
where was the
glitter
paint
and stuff
from?
stuck. Well, I'm an artist, and I had some paints and things, you know, for arts and crafts.
Oh, so he
took and dumped them on top of my clothes, right?
Okay.
And then the speakers and the stereo went on top of that.
You have photographs of the car and an estimate for the damage, so I can take a look?
I have receipts. I don't really have photographs.
You have receipts for the hatchback window?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to see. Now, what about this camera?
The camera that had gone, it went flying out of the box and went for a tumble on the street.
Okay. How much did you pay for it?
It was about $600.
You have a bill?
No, I couldn't find that receipt.
All right,
And
Mr.
then-
Tierno, let me hear your version of the events, sir.
You want to hear the whole sordid story from the beginning?
No, I don't want to hear the whole sordid story. If I wanted to, I'm
all that?
speaking. Listen to me. You asked me a question. At least give me the courtesy of permitting me to answer your question.
Okay.
I do not wish to hear the whole sordid story of your relationship. I wish to hear what happened on the 22nd of August when you came home and found her packing.
I came home from work. She was packing boxes. She said, I'm packing my stuff and moving. It's not working out between the two of us. You know, this just came out of left field. I asked her what she was doing, and she said that she
I'm
was
leaving.
moving out. Well, so I helped her. I started helping her.
Tell me how you did that.
What's that?
Tell me how you helped
Throwing
her.
stuff around.
Shh. Interrupt him.
I grabbed the boxes that were packed already, and I put them in her car.
What happened to her window?
What happened to her window? When I felt that the car was full, I went to shut the back window, and after shutting it, or after trying to shut it a couple times, I gave it one good one, and it just broke. The window broke. I didn't do it intentionally, ma'am.
No, it was negligent. Either it's intentional or it's an accident. An accident usually as a result happens as a result of negligence. She didn't break the window.
No, she didn't, ma'am.
So who should pay for the window?
Well, how about the things that she broke of mine, personal property
Things that I
that...
broke.
Shh. Please, Ms. Collins, I don't have a counterclaim, Mr. Tierno, so let's not get into what things she broke of yours. What I want to know is, who do you think should pay for the window? Let us assume that I accept your version of the events, that you come home from work, you find her packing. You had no clue that she was going to leave.
Right.
But you very calmly decided to help her pack. And you were packing and putting
Well, we
boxes.
got
I'm
into
speaking.
an-
I'm
oh,
speaking.
excuse me.
And according to this is what you just told me.
Right.
You were packing, and you put the boxes in the car, and then you tried to close the hatchback at the time when you felt as if the car was full. You tried it a couple of times, and then you finally gave it one good one, because those were your words. Wasn't that his word? One good one.
One good one.
And the window shattered. So my question to you is, who should pay for the
Well, it didn't
window?
really shatter, it just
Her,
cracked, but-
her, or you?
Well, in an argument between a man and a woman, and we got into an argument, and she was throwing things at me, breaking stuff, you know, of mine, okay?
You mean on that day, August 22nd?
Yeah, we got into an argument.
Oh, well, you didn't tell me that, Mr. Tierno.
Okay, well, maybe
the
I should
Mr.
expand on
Tierno,
it.
what you told me, sir, was you were helping her pack because she wasn't working out. She wanted to leave. You didn't say anything about an argument, sir.
Okay.
So now you had an argument.
Yeah, we had an argument.
Oh, that's a different story. So when
I
you...
thought you would realize that, you know, I come home and my girl is packing up her stuff, and yeah, it was kind of...
Oh, no, sir. She said you had an argument. You just said that you came home and you were helping her move her boxes in the car. So there was an argument.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Did you break any of his property?
No, I did not break any of his property.
She did break stuff of mine.
What did I supposedly do?
Quiet.
And later today,
Car just lost control.
He grabbed the steering wheel. He didn't just grab it and like make it move and make me lose control of the car. He grabbed it, pulled it down right here, and held it.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Carlene Collins says ex-boyfriend Bobby Tierno destroyed her belongings after they broke up.
What are the receipts you have?
The other receipts I have are for the my good work suits and my art supplies that got smashed underneath the stereo when it got thrown in there, and paint everywhere and stuff. And then after that...
Did you break any of his property?
No, I did not break any of his property.
Okay, just asking you. I don't have a counterclaim, so I'm just asking
I
you.
didn't throw anything.
Whether there's a counterclaim or not, I mean, the truth is she did break stuff of mine.
Well, I don't have
What?
a counterclaim, sir.
What did I supposedly break?
Quiet. Now, what suit are you talking about? Which suit is this?
There was a few. I don't have them all. I just
Well,
have
I'm
like
not.
one of my good ones.
Listen to me. What suit is that? That's the suit that's there. Because I have a bill
This
here.
one, actually, this one I didn't have a receipt for.
Ms. Collins, why would you save this suit for which you don't have a receipt and not bring the suit for which you do have a receipt?
Well, because I thought that I could somehow save this one. The skirt doesn't have anything on it. You know, the other ones were just it wasn't even worth saving. They were just.
You should see my apartment when she was painting all over the place on my furniture.
Listen to me. I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to hear from you now. I'm asking her a question. This is not a bad thing that I'm asking her questions.
When I decided to file a claim and sue for that, I had already tossed the stuff.
All right. He absolutely owes you for.
And there was some time. He
absolutely owes you for a new hatchback glass for your car.
Why?
Why? Because you broke it, sir. That's why.
Now, he was calling.
Why? Because you broke it.
Well, how about the stuff that she ruined of mine? How about the rent?
Sue her. Just a minute. Sue her.
I understand.
Do you understand? She has the right
Well, Your
to
Honor,
sue you, which she has
maybe
done.
I could talk some sense to
Which
you.
she has done. She sued you for breaking the hatchback of her car, which you acknowledge that you did.
And the time off of work.
Judgment for the plaintiff. The car cost you $2,094.45. Thank you very much. That's all.
What about...
That's it.
Why is our excuse? You may step out.
He knew what he did. You know what? I guess he just thought that he just wasn't going to have to pay for anything.
When we get in a fight, she'd throw things, and she'd knock over a little knick-knack on the table or a lamp.
I don't break things.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Spear versus Green. Step forward, please.
22-year-old waitress Jamie Spear is suing the father of her child, 20-year-old Job Corps worker Antoine Green, for the cost to fix her car. Jamie says Antoine caused her to crash into a telephone pole.
Ms. Spear, you and the defendant have a child in common, and it is your claim that the defendant caused your car to be totaled.
Yes, ma'am.
You were driving the car, but his actions caused your car to be totally wrecked. The defendant says that it was your fault, that you were arguing with him, and you had no business driving anyway because your license was suspended. Is that your defense, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
How old is the child that you share?
2 years old.
Now, what was he doing in your car?
Okay, he went to Job Corps about a year ago. He just got back and he just got a job. This is the first job he's had in going on 2 years. So this is the first real child support.
You went to Job Corps?
Yes.
What did you do in Job Corps?
I took up a trade, brick mason.
And you came back and got a job as a brick mason?
No, I came back and got a job as, I'm working for the city of Winston-Salem right now.
Go ahead. Okay, he called me that day because he was getting off work early. He wanted me to take him to cash his first check, and I agreed. And so, being this his first check...
Okay, so far, was that your first check that you were getting from your job that day, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you ask her to come and pick you up?
Yes.
Okay, so I picked him up, and he wanted me to go to cash his check, and we're on the way, and we decided that we weren't going to go through the court system to get child support. He wanted a chance to just give me money or pay for her. And so I asked for $40 a week. As we're going to go cash the check, I said, okay, this is what I want from you. Mind you, I haven't had any child support up until now. So he started telling me that he wasn't giving me money for me to go partying with or to waste and spend on myself. And it hurt me because I've been doing all this by myself. So that started a heated argument, and we started arguing. We were driving down the road. He got mad. He reached over. He grabbed the steering wheel. He didn't just grab it and make it move and make me lose control of the car. He grabbed it, pulled it down to right here, and held it. So we went up on the sidewalk. We hit a tree. It kind of sideswiped, and then we hit a telephone pole, I think it was, in front of that, which stopped the car. Luckily, there wasn't a scratch on any of us, but the car is totaled, and my daughter was in the car. We could have all died. We were lucky.
Who takes care of your baby?
I take care of her. When I go to work on the weekends, his mother keeps her.
So you only work on the weekends?
No, I work on Monday nights and Thursday nights and Friday and Saturday.
You get any sort of sustenance from the state?
No, just I had daycare assistance, but that's it.
How many days a week?
5.
Well, what do you do when your daughter is in daycare?
Well, I was working lunches, but I wasn't making enough money, so I had to go back to working dinners.
Why don't you find another job to do if you're getting daycare?
I'm going to school in January, and I'm trying to find a second job. I am.
Why don't you work breakfast and dinner and lunch? I mean, if the state is paying for your daycare, Miss Spear, they're paying for your daycare not so you can stay home and watch soap operas in the afternoon. They're paying for your daycare so that you can be out there working.
Right.
Now, you have a suspended driver's license?
I do.
Why were you driving?
Well, actually...
Not actually. Why were you driving if you're not supposed to be driving
The
a car?
day that the accident happened is when I found out that my license was revoked. She came back to me and said that your license had been revoked.
Why was it revoked?
Because I had an outstanding ticket.
For what?
For speeding.
That you didn't pay?
I haven't had the money to pay.
Well, that's because you were home watching soap operas instead of working lunches. Now I'll hear you. Did you know, Mr. Green, that Miss Spear had a suspended driver's license?
Yes,
when
I knew
you called her?
I knew that.
He did not
Did
know
you?
that.
Shh.
I'm sorry.
He says he did. When did you find out that she had a suspended driver's license?
I found out when the accident happened.
Oh, so you didn't know.
Yeah, I know now.
It's not what I asked you. I want you to try to follow what I'm saying.
Okay.
Now you tell me your version of the events. You called her up and she turned off her TV and she came to pick you up. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead. Pick it up from there.
So she picked me up from work. I got off early, and the first thing she asked me is about the child support. She wanted me to give her $40 a week. She wanted
Now, how much more was that than you had given her all of last year, sir? Last year, how much were you giving her a week?
I wasn't giving her pretty much.
What?
I really didn't have a steady job then.
Just a minute. Oh, now I understand. So, you didn't give her anything last year.
I gave her something.
How much?
If I could, about $50, if I could.
So you gave her nothing last year. And the year before, how much were you giving her a week, the year before?
And
a week?
It was close to a couple of $100.
A week?
Yeah.
Really? You were giving her a couple $100 a week?
Yes.
That's a lot of money. Where were you getting a couple $100 a week from?
I had a good job then.
So why did you go into Job Corps?
Because I wanted to get a trade to make more money.
Well, you didn't do that.
No.
It didn't help you.
No, I'm still
You
working
gave
on
up.
it, though.
You gave up a job where you could afford to give her $200 a week to go into Job Corps. How much were you making at this job?
$300 a week.
So you are, Mr. Green, you are one of the most generous people I know. So you're making $300 a week from your job, and you're giving her $200 a week child support. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
You believe that? This is coming from a man who didn't want to give her $40 a week.
No, let me tell you.
$40 a week. So you're telling me first you were giving her $200. Let me follow this, Mr. Green.
I didn't want.
You're giving her $200 a week because she had a really good job making $300 a week. So 2/3 of your income you give her. Then you wanted to get a better job with the trade. So you went to Job Corps where you couldn't send her any money. Then you came out and you got a job where you were making how much a week at this job working for the city?
About the same thing, $250, $300.
$250 or $300 a week, right? So why weren't you giving her $200 a week? The last job you had where you were making $300 a week, you were giving her $200. What happened in the car, sir? So she asked you for $40 and you said, I'm not giving you $40.
No, I'm not giving her no more money. So she started arguing. You know, we was arguing real loud for a minute, for about an hour, driving on the road. The car just lost control. So I grabbed the wheel, tried to pull the car back on the street. But instead, the car hit the pole and then hit up against the tree.
Okay. What was the total damage to the car?
I wasn't able to get an estimate because I can't afford to get the car towed anywhere. It's not drivable, and I can't afford to have anyone come out and look at it.
When did you buy the car?
In February of 2002, this year.
And how much did you pay for it?
$1,600.
Okay.
And then the value of the car is valued at $2,600.
I don't care what it's valued at, madam. Miss Spear.
And then
You think that I believe he's totally responsible for this? I don't believe he's totally responsible. I believe that you're partially responsible. You don't have a fight in a car with your baby in the car over anything. You stop the car and you say to him, get out. Stop the car, pull over, and say, get out. And then you would have gotten out of the car and you would have composed yourself and you would have continued. You don't fight with them back and forth, especially with the baby in the car. Don't you think the baby hears you screaming back and forth to each other? 2-year-old child understands that.
May I say something, Your Honor?
No. Takes two to make a fight. Two idiots to make a fight driving in a car with a baby. You want to have a fight with each other in a car, bad enough. You're placing yourselves at risk, other people on the road at risk. But to have a fight in a car with your child in the car screaming and yelling at each other is the height of stupidity. So the car, you paid $1,600 for that, I believe. You only get $8. The other $8, work off at lunch. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $800. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Michelle Leyva is suing her ex-husband, airport maintenance man Larry Cordova, for breaking his promise to move with her to New Mexico. Michelle says, instead, Larry left her for another woman.
All rise. Yes, it's case number 369 on the calendar in the matter of Leyva versus Cordova. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Mr. Cordova is your former husband. You have 3 children.
Yes.
I gather 2 of those children were born during the course of your marriage. Is that right?
Yes.
And then you divorced in 2000.
Yes.
Got back together again, didn't remarry, but had another child.
Yes.
It is your claim, Miss Leyva, that your former husband deceived you, and that he convinced you to relocate to New Mexico.
Yes.
He convinced you to relocate to New Mexico because he said he had a job there, and you were going to be a family there. You left your home, broke your lease, took your kids out of school, moved from where to New Mexico?
From Denver, Colorado to Albuquerque.
And Mr. Cordova was supposed to join you. Instead, he stayed in Colorado.
That's where I live.
And married somebody else.
Yes.
So you want him to pay all your expenses, moving expenses. You have no job, you quit your job. Mr. Cordova says that he never told you to move to New Mexico. You moved to New Mexico because you wanted to be near your father. And he never had intentions of relocating.
No, I didn't.
Okay. When was your 3rd child born, Mr. Cordova?
July of 2001.
And after you and Miss Leyva were divorced, did you ever resume living together?
Yes.
When?
About January of 2001.
And how long did you stay together?
October of last year.
I moved out December 1st.
Why did you move out?
I met him when I was 15. It's been an ongoing, it's been a mess since then. I loved him, he loved me, but we never could get ourselves to get together, to be together. So after this time, I moved out. I got my own place. I had a very good job that I loved.
Just a second. So you moved out in December 2003 because you decided that you didn't want to be married to him or together as a couple anymore.
Yeah.
Well, something changed evidently at some point. When was that?
In May, he called and asked, it was my birthday in May, he told me that he had tickets to the De La Hoya fight if I wanted to go. So I agreed and I went.
How long did you go away for?
The weekend.
Who watched the children?
My mother. And then we came home and, you know, we were friends and stuff. In July, my father came out and it was a mess because we put our kids through ridiculous stuff. I mean,
it's clear to me that you did.
Yeah, my daughter's 10 years old. She's supposed to be in the 5th grade. I held her back. She's in 4th grade now. She's just struggling. She's at a 1st grade level. It's bad. And my father came down and met with Larry. They talked first, and then I came later on that day. I was crying, and I told him, Larry, if you do not want this, if you are not sure, please don't do this because...
Don't do what? I haven't heard about him doing anything.
Well, he was talking about me and him getting back together.
That was in July?
Yes. We had talked about before us moving to a different state and not knowing no one, a new start, and we can try stuff over and just work on our family.
Does that sound familiar to you?
No.
No. You never had that discussion
with her? Her father did come down to talk to me.
And what did he say to you?
He said
Is this
that,
her father?
Yes. He
so
said that
he's going to tell me what he said too. What do you say he said to you, sir?
He said that he found a house for Michelle and my kids, and that Michelle wanted to go out there and live with him, and she's been wanting to move out there, and I knew that. That's not something that I wanted to do. I was already in a relationship with somebody else. They asked me if I wanted to.
Well, when did you start a relationship with somebody else?
In July.
So between May and July, you met somebody else?
Correct.
Did you tell that to your former wife?
No.
Shh.
Did I tell her I met somebody else?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
You did?
Yes.
Told her name?
Yes, she knew her name. As a matter of fact, she even stole her phone number from my house. and was making prank calls.
I never called her, and that was because...
Never called who?
I've never called the girl. I went to his house. We were supposed to be together. He told me his last day of work was going to be August 11th at Denver International Airport was his last day. He's going to start a new job in Albuquerque August 16th. I went to his house one night, went over just to go see, what was up, to hang out, and I found this number of this girl on his counter. And
when was that?
In August.
In August?
Yeah.
Before you moved?
Uh-huh. I found this number.
Okay.
So I showed him, and I was going crazy, and I asked him what it was, and he wanted to grab it from me so bad. He didn't want me to get the number. Well, I put it into my phone while I was telling him.
So you knew that he had somebody else when you moved to New Mexico?
Yes. I just had found out then. I didn't know. He was deceiving me the whole time.
But you knew he had somebody else when you moved to New Mexico?
No, actually, he told me, no, that's an old number, and we don't talk.
No.
Which I don't believe.
No. But you knew better.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Unfortunately, raised 3 probably neurotic children because of the behavior of both of you.
Actually 4. I was raising her kids she had from someone else while we were married.
And later today,
David had shoved me into the fridge. I called the police. We went to sleep in separate rooms that night, woke up the next morning, and it was the same scene. I had been shoved into the same refrigerator. I called the police again.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Michelle Leyva says ex-husband Larry Cordova owes for the cost to move. Michelle says Larry left her for another woman.
So when you went to New Mexico, you had some reservations as to whether or not he was going to come with you, right?
Yeah, he was supposed to be there.
I said you had reservations, which means that you weren't sure that he was going to come with you because he had somebody else.
Well, I left my daughter behind because she had a broken foot. I left her behind, and he said, that's fine. She'll come up when I come. He was supposed to come on that Sunday.
So who brought her?
He called and told me 2 nights before he was supposed to leave he wasn't coming. She was stuck there. I had no money to go back. He wasn't going to give me no money because he hasn't given me child support for about 5 months. I called my brother, and my brother came, and he brought her.
When did you get married, Mr. Cordova?
September.
Why don't you pay child support?
I do. As a matter of fact, she said she was going to try to make me look like a deadbeat dad, so I requested a balance from the county of Adams County Department of Social Services.
How much are you supposed to send every week or month?
They automatically take it out of my checks. It's $94.
A week?
A month.
A month. And that's because of when we got...
I'm speechless.
Well, no.
I mean,
when my children lived here, they were with me all the time.
No, they weren't.
Well, just a second. Shh. But
And
they're not with you now.
that was how the parenting plan was.
Shh, listen to me. But they're not with you now.
They're not. And
I didn't ask you anything.
And that's being resolved in the courts.
You have 3 children. How do you expect her to survive and support 3 children and work with $94 a month? And how dare you get married again? I'm speaking. And start another family when you have somebody when you have prior responsibility.
I taking care of my kids, and
no, you're not.
She moved, and I mean, we're resolving that in the courts now. So,
Mr. Cordova, listen to me very carefully, sir. Are you contesting her move to New Mexico?
No,
that requires a yes or a no.
I wasn't against her moving. Yes, I wasn't against her moving.
So you were in favor of her moving?
I was not in favor of her moving either. I didn't have a choice. The only choice I had was to move out there, and I wasn't going to do that.
No, sure you did. You said that her father came up to believe you, Mr. Cordova. Her father came up, and you spoke about her moving down there with her father, going to move into a house, and that's what she would like to do. You didn't say, I told her I didn't want her to move and take my children away.
Oh, I told her I didn't.
No, I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that then. I didn't hear that in your voice, Mr. Cordova.
Why?
How much do you earn?
About $4,100 a month.
You make $4,000 a month, and you support your 3 children to the tune of $94 a month?
Correct.
That's outrageous, sir. That's outrageous. I hope they get you good.
They are.
I hope they get you good. And I would make sure that there's a whole bunch of birth control in your house so that you don't have any more children until you learn to take care of these 3. Because you may have started out when you were 2 babies, but unfortunately raised 3 probably neurotic children because of the behavior of both of you.
Actually 4. I was raising her kids she had from someone else while we were married.
How old was she when your first child was born?
16. I was 15.
You were 15.
16.
And how old were you? And how old were you?
18, I think. 18, 19? I think. 19. 18.
19. And she was 15. That's big trouble. That could be big trouble. So, I would take a whole bunch of birth control, sir. Make sure. And, you know, you have to either swallow it or use it in order for it to work. Do you understand?
Yes.
I don't know what your problem is, but you make choices in this world. And your choice was that you moved to New Mexico to be near your father.
Because he deceived. I only moved because of him.
It's been a lifetime of deception.
Well,
now.
I wouldn't. I'd be at home in my place with my kids where they were
Well, then
settled
let me
in.
tell you this. Then move back home. I mean, you also have some responsibility. You are how old now?
27.
27. And you have 4 children. Is that right?
Yes.
That is enough children.
Yes.
You have enough children. Now you have to work on supporting them and taking care of them.
That's what I'm doing.
You have no case against Mr. Cordova, madam, and you have to get used to that. The only thing you have to get used to is paying more money. And if I were you, I would start paying it before somebody makes an order for me to pay it, because if you came before me and said you had 3 children and you make $4,000 a month and you're forking over $94 a month, I would torture you. We understand each other?
Yes.
Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think she made the right decision. I did not deceive her like she's saying.
He knows in his heart what he did.
She's mad that I got married, and she always thought we would be back together someday, and that's not what happened.
It's fine. It's not over.
Whenever I've been in any kind of relationship, she's tried to ruin it or destroy it.
He's not there for my kids at all.
I'm happy, and I want her to move on with her life and be happy.
He'll get what's coming to him. That's all.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Wilson versus Lavarius. Step forward, please.
25-year-old bartender Ben Wilson is suing his ex-boyfriend, 22-year-old retail salesperson David Lavarius, for breaking an apartment lease. David says Ben became violent, so he moved out.
Mr. Wilson, you and Mr. Lavarius were in a relationship and decided to lease an apartment.
Yes.
Mr. Lavarius's name was not on the lease, only yours.
Yes.
According to you, you had an oral agreement that he would pay for half the rent.
And a sublet agreement, a written sublet agreement.
Good, which I will look at. And it is your claim that he moved out and that he should pay you for his half of the year's rent for the duration of the lease. Mr. Lavarius says you got into a fight, you called the police, it was clear you didn't want him there, so he doesn't have to pay a thing.
Right.
Where'd you get this sublet agreement?
That was from my landlord. David had a bad renter history, and the landlord and I both wanted him to be legally responsible for the apartment. So she decided that the best way to go about doing that was to have him fill out a sublet agreement.
It's not binding. It doesn't contain all the terms and provisions of this document. When you want a legal document that withstands legal scrutiny, you're supposed to go to a lawyer, not a landlord. So you had, according to you, an arrangement with Mr. Lavarius that despite the fact that you were on the lease, that he was going to pay half the rent. Is that your agreement with him?
Yes.
Is that his agreement with you?
Yes.
Yes, that's good. And you moved into the apartment when, Mr. Lavarius?
End of July.
When did you move out?
Mid-August.
Did you pay any rent at all?
Yes.
When?
No, he did not. His check said...
I'll get to you. Yes.
Yes, I did.
When?
So I started my job beginning of August. I paid him $200 first, and then the rest of the money that I paid him went toward his birthday party during the middle of the month.
That's not rent. Birthday party, not rent. Rent, birthday party. You paid him $200 according to you?
Yes.
Now, what happened August 20th?
August 20th, well, prior to that, we had gotten into a couple fights.
About?
Our scheduling wasn't right. He doesn't listen, so we had a little conflicts and disagreements, so it ended up physical.
On August 20th?
August 20th, I believe, the police were called twice.
When were they called for the first time, and who called them?
He called them both times.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, it is.
Why did you call the police?
David had shoved me into the fridge. I didn't want to push back because I'm a lot bigger than David. I didn't want to be in a position where I'm going to hurt David.
Big Nelly punk.
And he pushed me into the fridge, knocked over a bunch of stuff off the top of it. I ran outside and called the police. After I called the police, He ran outside after me saying, "You can't call them. I have warrants. I have warrants. I'll go to jail. Do you want me to go to jail?" That night, I had sent the police away, gotten them to leave. We went to sleep in separate rooms that night. Woke up the next morning, and it was the same scene. I had been shoved into the same refrigerator. I called the police again.
Listen to me, Miss Lavarius.
Yes.
I don't want you to say anything until I look in your direction and ask you a question. I did ask you questions, and you gave me answers before. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And when he interrupted, I told him not to interrupt again, right?
Right.
You understand what that means?
Yes.
Don't interrupt him until I look at you.
Okay.
In the evening, he shoved you again.
Yeah, it was actually the next afternoon. He shoved me again. I called the police again, and when the police came a second time, they said, "We have to press charges for this."
So?
And he ran away from the house because he had these warrants. He actually just got picked up on Sunday for these warrants.
Okay. You called the police, and it was your hope and expectation that the police would put him out so that you could have the peaceful enjoyment of your apartment. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
And you certainly don't want him to move back into your apartment, do you?
No, I don't. But I never would have gotten that apartment without having David's income. That was an apartment that I could not have afforded myself. I only got it because of the agreement that we had that he would pay rent.
He's not going to pay rent in a place where he can't live, sir. And you don't want him to live there. You feel threatened with him living there. That's why you called the police twice.
Threatened?
So, how long did you know Mr. Lavarius before you undertook this rent?
We met on June 9th. He didn't have anywhere to stay. He was
I didn't
kind of
ask for the
homeless.
whole story. I asked for a date.
We had known each other for 2 months.
What did he do for a living?
He had gotten, before August had started, he'd gotten a job at American Family Insurance.
In June?
In June, he was between jobs.
So he got a job when in July?
I believe it was the middle of July. Mm-hmm.
So for 4 weeks he was employed. Is that right?
Yes.
And you knew he had such bad credit that his name couldn't even go on a primary lease.
Right.
So that would give an intelligent person a clue that I wouldn't rent an apartment with this person that I know for 8 weeks, who's been unemployed for 4 weeks, who has a bad history of not paying rent. I wouldn't take an apartment with that person that I couldn't afford for myself.
He would.
Ugh.
Sorry.
And anyway, Mr. Wilson, you can't have it both ways. You have an apartment, either he's your roommate and lives there or not. You don't want him there because you didn't like getting shoved around and you didn't like fighting. You called the police twice. They came. They accommodated you. He took off, and that's exactly what you want. So don't come to court to complain about it. You got what you wanted. You have your apartment all to yourself. Now you have to pay for it. That's all. Case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Frankly, I wasn't going to live in a situation.
Countersuing, but the cost of belongings Pamela refuses to return.
Now, this is case number 599 on the calendar in the matter of Deskins versus Benson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Thanks,
folks. Have a seat. You're welcome, Judge.
Ms. Deskins, you and Mr. Benson lived together for the last 4 years, according to what I read here, and you were in what I perceived you believed to be a committed relationship. At some time, according to your complaint, you purchased a truck. The truck was for, according to you, Mr. Benson's use in his business. The only thing is the truck was titled in your name, and the understanding was that he was to make all the payments on the truck. He didn't. They repossessed the truck, and you now have a judgment against you for some $8,000. Mr. Benson says with regard to that part of your complaint, it was your truck. You should have paid for it.
Yes.
Next, your claim is really a little convoluted. It's something to do with the saddle, that he pawned some of your property, and you want the value of the property that he pawned, saddles or something like that. Now, Mr. Benson says that he took the saddles down and pawned them because you needed the money, you wanted the money, and he gave you the money. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Benson?
No, she wanted me to buy dog food, and I used the money for that.
And finally, we have Mr. Benson's counterclaim, because he says when you threw him out, he left with the clothes on his back, and you have his saddle and tools and stuff that he wants back. Okay, let's get to the truck. When did you buy the truck?
The truck was purchased in approximately May of 2002.
What kind of a car were you driving in May of 2002?
A Toyota Camry 1995.
Is that the only vehicle that you had?
No, I believe at that time I also had a Ford F-250 pickup truck.
Did you sell that truck?
That truck was sold, yes, Your
When?
Honor. Probably sometime that year.
When you got the other truck?
Yes. It was its replacement.
When you got the other truck, you sold the old one?
No. The other truck was sold before the Nissan pickup truck was purchased.
So you got one instead of the other. Now, what were you using a truck for?
I was not using a truck for anything but an ostrich business that I had from 1990 to approximately 1998.
Well, from 1998 until 2002, when you got rid of it, what were you doing with the truck?
Hauling hay.
I'm going to get to you. Miss Deskins, I want you to understand something.
Yes.
One way or another, and I would prefer it to be sooner rather than later, I'm going to get all the truth. So if you're going to give me a lot of baloney, it's going to irritate me because it's been a long day and I'm tired. Do you understand?
I understand.
Do you understand?
I understand.
Good. So if you had an ostrich business that concluded in 1998 and you kept a truck and paid for insurance and paid for tags for 4 years, then you're either stupid or you were doing something else with the truck.
After I stopped ranching ostriches, I had a horse ranch and a llama business.
So you were using the truck?
Correct.
And when you sold that truck, the same year you purchased this truck in May of '02.
That's correct. I purchased the truck for Mr. Benson. He wanted it for his horseshoeing business.
And you never used it?
No, I'm not saying I never used it, Your Honor. He had probably 99.9% exclusive use of the truck. I used it when my Camry needed to have tires put on or something. I would occasionally borrow the truck.
Now I'll hear you.
She had the keys of the truck. I had to borrow the truck to use the truck. And yes, I used it for horseshoeing. And she got all the money in our relationship. What I got horseshoeing or saddle making, she got the money. If she chose not to pay for this truck, that's her problem.
No, don't get to the ultimate conclusion, sir, because that's going to irritate me, because that's my job.
Okay.
You don't want to take away my job.
It wasn't my truck.
I am not going to shoe your horses, and you don't take away my job.
I promise. But it wasn't my truck.
Just a second. You used the truck.
Yes.
And she used the truck.
Yes.
I believe that.
Thank you.
So it was in your name?
That's correct.
He left? When he left?
He was asked to leave February 12th.
Good. And when he left on February 12th, did you keep the truck?
The truck was actually in a replevin action at that time, Your Honor. He would not give me the car keys to the truck. I actually had to get a court order to get the keys from him. And I went down to the restaurant where he was working with the court order and asked him for the keys, and he coughed up the keys at that point.
Ms. Deskins, you are the titled owner of this truck?
That's correct.
You don't need a court order to get the keys, madam. All you need is your little finger that does the walking through the yellow pages. And you call a locksmith, and the locksmith starts the truck, and you replace the cylinder and get a new key. That's what happens if you would have lost the keys to the truck, right? So I don't know why you went through this whole megillah about going to court and getting the keys to the truck when all you had to do was call a locksmith. All right, what else did he do? He pawned some property. When?
He pawned property beginning in about August of 2004.
What did he pawn in August of 2004?
He began by pawning saddles that I had purchased. He pawned.
When did you find out about it?
I found out about it probably around the first part of this year when I noticed the items were missing.
We have a company together. These were my saddles, too.
What kind of company do you have?
A saddle business, making and buying, selling, and trading saddles.
Ms. Deskins, is it true, madam, that you and Mr. Benson, aside from sharing a bed, shared a business together?
I posted his saddles for him on my eBay website.
And what did you do with the money that you got from selling the saddles?
The money was used primarily to buy leather and other tools for Mr. Benson's leather making.
Was some
and
of the money,
keys.
just let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Somebody buys a saddle. How much do you pay for a saddle?
Anywhere from $250 to $1,000.
And what did you do with the money?
We paid financial expenses with it.
You paid bills.
Yes.
You paid household expenses,
Yes.
food, right?
And we invested back in the business.
Good. What do you want from me? The relationship broke up. The business broke up. It's joint property. Some of it's his, some of it's yours. You expect me to go figure out what part of the saddle was yours and what part of the saddle was his?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What happened that you left so quickly, Mr. Benson? That you couldn't take the most valuable things?
We had police and guns involved. And the police told me she was crazy. Get in the car. We'll take you anywhere you want to go. When you come back, bring the police.
And later today,
you sold it to her for $3,500, and she was a friend.
Yes.
Several months later, you sold it to somebody else for $1,900. It was a stranger.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, madam.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Pamela Deskin says ex-boyfriend Michael Benson owes for the balance on a truck and for allegedly stealing horse saddles. Michael says everything he owns is still in Pamela's possession.
Ms. Destin, it's over. The relationship is over. The business is over.
We were in a meretricious relationship. We shared a lot of property. We shared a lot of business ventures together. He converted a lot of that property for his own personal use.
You made an error in judgment.
I made an error in judgment when I purchased a car for him and believed that he truly was going to use that and pay for it. And I would take half the responsibility for that stupidity. But I believe Mr. Benson needs to take the other half of the responsibility.
Sure, if his name was, listen to me, if his name was on, hey, don't talk to her. If his name was on the title to the truck, was his name on the title to the truck?
No, Your Honor, because he told me that he needed my credit to get the truck. He had the benefit of the bargain. Now I'm getting the defaulted note.
Since then, I bought a different car. I didn't need her help.
Mr. Benson?
Yes, ma'am.
Do I look like I need you, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Deskins probably got the short end of the financial stick. That's possible, but that sometimes happens in a relationship. And not every time somebody gets the short end of the bargain does it mean that there is a court case which will result in vindication. I just said to you, if the truck had been in both of your names, then a joint debt might have been created for the difference between the loan on the truck and what was secured from its sale. But you had the truck in your name alone. It could have been titled in his name.
Mr. Benson has a child support obligation which prevents him from having the title to anything in his own name. That's why the title was held in my name.
Is what you're telling me is that you helped him perpetrate a fraud on the mother of his children?
No, Your Honor.
No, just a second.
No, Your Honor, I'm
well,
not
that's
saying
what,
that.
Just a second. That's what you're saying to me. Quiet. That's what you're saying to me, because if what you're saying to me is he keeps everything out of his own name so that the mother of his children can't get hold of property because he's in arrears and child support because he's a deadbeat. You're not a deadbeat, are you, Mr. Benson? You owe a lot of money in child support.
Yes,
it's very easy to figure out.
I'm paying it.
That's not my question. My question is, do you owe a lot of money in child support?
Yes.
Okay. So I knew I was going to get now.
But I still have a car in my name. I can have things in my name.
All Miss Deskins said to me was, the reason she put the truck in your name is that your ex-wife? Wife couldn't get her hands on it. That means she's assisting you in perpetrating a fraud. I'm not interested in hearing it. Let me hear about what you left in the house.
Everything I own.
What?
Okay. All my personal clothing. All my artwork.
What kind of artwork? Show me.
I have one of my grandmother's pictures, which was painted, God, I don't know when.
Well, what happened that you left so quickly, Mr. Benson, that you couldn't take the most valuable things?
We had police and guns involved.
What?
Police and guns. And the police told me she was crazy. Get in the car. We'll take you anywhere you want to go, but stay away from there. And when you come back, bring the police.
Well, did you try to do that?
Yes, ma'am.
And what happened?
I made arrangements to pick my stuff up about 2 Saturdays ago, and then she wasn't there.
How many times have you been married?
3.
Didn't want to do a 4th?
No.
Smart. How many times have you been married?
Twice.
Didn't want to do it again?
No.
Also sounds smart. Next time, be smarter financially, Miss Deskins. Mr. Benson, my gut feeling is that you share some of the responsibility for this truck that she got stuck with because you did, in fact, use it for your business. You didn't have another car at the time, did you?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you have?
I have a Trooper. I've had it 12 times almost. Yes, and I had a Bronco before that.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I have proof that he...
I had the Bronco when she bought the truck.
Okay.
I already had a horseshoe and rig.
And what did you do with the Bronco?
I wrecked it about a year later. And then I bought a Trooper.
Were you using the truck at all, Mr. Benson?
Not in quite a while. She wouldn't let me.
Okay. It's my sense that were things different and were you two married and were we sitting here in a court and dissolving a marriage, we would add up the marital debt. That wouldn't make any difference in whose name property was titled, and we would divide that in half. But since you are not married and the title to the truck was in your name and the truck was in fact on your property, the debt is yours. So's whatever you left in the house, if you can't get it. Do you understand?
I can't have my stuff back?
You can have your stuff. If the police want to help you get it, that's fine. I'm certainly not going to give you a monetary award for it, sir. You have any of his stuff that you want to give to him?
I have given him ample opportunity to pick up his personal belongings.
Like what?
Everything that he owns, his clothing, his leather-making tools, his horseshoeing tools, everything is still there in his room.
Ms. Deskins, do you believe Mr. Benson has a temper?
Yes.
And you don't want anything to do with him anymore, is that right?
No, he's an alcoholic with a terribly verbal...
I'm not interested in your expanding on your answer. If I was, I would have let you do that. So it would be a fair statement that you want him out of your life.
That's correct.
Do you know where he's living?
I have no idea.
Where are you living? Uncross your arms.
I'm living approximately 5 miles up the road. She knows where I live.
Person?
This is my witness here. I live with his family.
Okay. Do you know this young man?
I've met him once or twice.
You're not afraid of him, are you?
I don't know him well enough to be afraid of him.
What do you do?
I'm a construction worker and assistant ranch manager.
Have you ever been arrested?
No.
Do you have a truck?
Yes.
How about you box up his stuff 5 days from today at 10 a.m., and this young man's going to come to your house without him, and you're just going to get rid of the stuff. And I'm going to tell you why that's going to be a good thing for you to do. Because you don't want him to be irritated with you. If he's got a temper, according to you, and a whole lot of other things that I'm not giving you an opportunity to tell me about, I would suggest you get rid of the stuff so that you have no further nexus with him. Smart?
I think it's a very good idea.
Good. Thank you very much. We'll cut that order. Goodbye.
Don't forget my donkeys.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I have a whole packet here of sheriff's reports.
The cops never did anything to me, and several times they wanted to arrest her.
He was drunk when I came home, and he was verbally abusing me.
That's pretty slanderous.
He would go for short periods and not drink, and I had hope for the relationship.
I just left with the clothes on my back, and I never went back.
I finally came to the conclusion that it was hopeless.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Seed versus Maxwell. Step forward, please.
19-year-old customer service rep Melissa Seed is suing former co-worker, 22-year-old student Tammy Maxwell for the return of money she paid for a Nissan 200 SX. Melissa says Tammy ended up selling the car to someone else.
Miss Seed, how did you know Miss Maxwell before you agreed to buy her car?
I used to work with her.
According to your complaint, she had a car she was selling. You decided to buy it. You agreed on a price of $3,500. Miss Maxwell said she would sell you the car, you could pay it off, but she would keep the car until it was paid. As soon as you finished making your last payment, she would sign the title over the car and give it to you. So far, is that correct?
Yes.
You started to make payments on the car, and according to you, you made $1,600 worth of payments.
Yes.
And then you ran into some financial difficulty, and you stopped making payments.
Correct.
And Miss Maxwell sold the car because you hadn't made payments, and you want your $1,600 back.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Maxwell says that she used your money to make the car payments on the car because that was what she had intended to do, and that she sold the car for just the difference in what was owed on the car and what you had given her, which was $1,900. That's what you're telling me, is that right?
Yes.
So first, let me see the bill of sale for the car. Okay, well, this says that you're buying it in as-is condition. And did you check the Blue Book price of the car at the time?
Yes, I did.
And what was the Blue Book price of the car?
About $2,500.
So why did you agree to pay $3,500?
Because it had some modifications done to it.
Like what?
It had wheels and tires. It had a...
Wheels and tires usually come with a car. It's very hard to drive a car without wheels and tires.
Custom wheels and tires.
Yeah.
It had a stereo system in it with subwoofers, so it wasn't stock stereo.
So what do you need that stuff for?
Just a kid wanting to have fun with a nice car, I guess.
When did you sell the car?
September.
Who did you sell the car to?
It's a private party.
Let me see. Bill of sale.
I don't have the bill of sale. I gave it to them to register the car. I have my loan payoff, which was $1,823. And so I took the $1,900 and paid off the loan.
Well, you would have a bill of sale from somebody else.
No, I gave it to them. I didn't keep a copy for myself.
Well, you have to. That means I'm just relying on you to tell me the truth with regard to how much you sold the car for. Because you sold it to her for $3,500 and she was a friend. Is that right?
Yes.
Several months later, you sold it to somebody else, according to you, for $1,900. Who was a stranger.
I couldn't afford the loan. My insurance was doubled with the car on it.
No, but are you following me?
Yes, I follow.
Why would you sell it to a stranger for $1,600 less than it was worth?
Just to pay off the loan because I couldn't afford the loan anymore.
It doesn't make sense, madam. What was the balance when you sold it to her at the end of February?
$2,300.
$2,300. So from her, you got $1,600, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I believe you, which I don't, from somebody else you got $1,900, right?
Yes.
Equals $3,500. The only thing that was left on the loan was $2,300.
Yes.
That means that on these two transactions, if I believed you, you made a profit of $1,200.
I also had to pay the insurance on it.
Of course, you had the car.
But I wasn't driving it. I was just holding it for her.
How do I know that? You can't come unjustly enriched at her expense. And you did. if I believe everything she said, and I have no proof that it's not true, so she has to give you back $1,200, which she says she profited. She doesn't realize that she said she profited, but she did. She profited $1,200 worth. That goes to you. The rest of it you've lost.
Okay.
Got it?
Fine.
Are suing Lori Wilson and her daughters Heather and Mary Wilson for harassment and emotional distress.
Order. All rise.
Now, it's case number 47 on the calendar, the matter of Johnston Barbera versus Wilson. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Miss Johnson?
Yes.
This is your daughter?
Yes.
Your daughter was the victim of very serious assault.
Yes.
When did that take place?
June 3rd of 2005.
She was stabbed. Is that right? It is your claim that these two young ladies, one of them was involved in the stabbing, and since the perpetrator of the crime was arrested, both of them have engaged in a course of conduct that amounts to serious harassment of Kelly. And since their mother has not been responsible in seeing to it that they behave themselves, you want her to be responsible now and pay the damages. Ms. Wilson says her daughters were in no way involved in this and have not, in fact, been harassing your daughter. That's your defense. Is that right?
My daughters were not involved in the stabbing, no.
Okay. Who's Heather? Everybody can sit down except Heather. No, you stay there.
Oh, okay.
When did the stabbing take place, Heather?
June 3rd.
Was it a school day or not a school day?
It was a school day.
Who were you with after school?
I didn't go to school. I was sick that day.
But you didn't stay home.
I did stay home.
No, you didn't. You didn't stay home all day. Listen to me. Let's understand something. I don't care what you told your mother. I don't care what you told the police. I don't care what you told anybody. We're going to have a truthful conversation here. Yes, otherwise, it's going to be very unpleasant for you. Do we understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, the name of the girl who stabbed Kelly is what?
Michelle Booker.
Otherwise known as?
Shelly Booker.
And she is a friend of yours?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you meet her on June the 3rd? What time?
I don't know exactly what time it was.
Morning or afternoon?
It was afternoon.
Did she come to your house or did you go to her house?
I didn't go to her house. We met up.
Met where?
At the corner store.
How did you know to meet her at the corner store?
She called me and asked her to meet her there.
What did she say to you when she called you?
She said that her and Kelly were going to begin in a fight, and I said, okay, and she asked me to meet her there, and I met her there.
She said she and Kelly, this young lady,
yes,
was going to be in a fight, and she wanted you to meet her there for what reason?
I guess to get in a fight.
So you met her at the corner store. Who else was there?
Just me and her.
And where did you go?
To the park.
Who was in the park?
Datrion, Cameron.
Who's Datrion?
My friend.
Who else?
Cameron, my friend. Chris.
Chris? Who is Chris?
My friend.
Are you tired?
Yes, ma'am. And Marquis.
Who is Marquis?
My friend.
And Shelly?
And a whole bunch of other people that I didn't know.
Where was Kelly?
There.
With whom?
With all of them.
And what about Shelly? Were they Shelly's friends as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Uncross your hands. What happened when you got to the park?
They were yelling back and forth.
Stop moving. Who was yelling back and forth?
Kelly and Shelly.
What happened?
Well, when I was already there, and then I saw Heather and Shelly walking, and then they sat down like by the bleachers by us, and they were just talking for a little bit, and then we started yelling.
What were you yelling?
Just like we were just calling each other names. And
who were you calling names?
Shelly, and it was going back and forth.
Why were you unhappy with Shelly? And why was Shelly unhappy with you?
We didn't get along. Like, we just never really, I didn't really know her. Like, I wasn't friends with her. It was just kind of an acquaintance.
Were you in the park intending to fight that day?
Yeah.
Who had called you?
Well, I was over at Chris's house with those people that she named off, and I can't remember if Chris called Shelly, but they were talking on the phone, and then plans kind of happened.
Plans kind of happened to have a fight?
Yes.
So you all go to the park to have a fight. Is that right?
Yes.
And that's why you're there as well, correct? Yes, did you have any weapon?
No.
Did you have any weapon?
Nope.
But Shelly had a weapon. When for the first time did you see Shelly's weapon?
When she pulled it out.
And where was she when she pulled it out?
Right next to Kelly, fighting her.
And what did she pull out?
Switchblade, I think.
Switchblade. And what did she do with the switchblade?
Stab Kelly.
How many times?
5, I think. That's what I heard.
Well, you were standing right there.
I was a distance, but I was there, yeah.
And after she stabbed Kelly 5 times, what did you do?
Left.
Who did you leave with?
Nobody. By myself.
Who called an ambulance for her?
I don't know.
Why didn't you?
Because I didn't want to go to jail.
Go to jail for what?
Because they would have thought that I was part of it.
Oh, you think so?
I thought so.
You think so?
I was scared. I was only 13. I didn't know that was going to happen.
Well, who called an ambulance for her?
I have no idea. I left.
But you did know one thing. Madam, you knew that Shelley had committed a vicious assault, and as far as you could tell that day, she might have been dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
When did Shelley come to your house?
It's not for...
No. When did Shelley... Look at me. When did Shelley come to your house?
Like a month after, weeks after.
Are you telling me that you didn't speak to Shelley between June 3rd?
I spoke to her.
And where was she when you spoke to her?
Over the phone, not in...
Where was she when you spoke to her?
She didn't tell me.
I don't believe you.
I
don't believe you. If your mother believes you, then she wants to believe you. I don't believe you. Because the 13-year-old girl says, where are you? The police are looking for you.
She said, I don't want the police to know, and so I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, yeah, I don't believe that for a second. Did you call the police and tell the police that you had been receiving phone calls from her?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I don't know.
Why not?
I don't know.
And when did she come to your house?
Months afterwards. You can ask my mother.
You mean, I'm not asking your mother, I'm asking you. Does your mother work?
Yes, ma'am.
She's out of the house Monday through Friday?
Yes, ma'am.
She doesn't know what's going on in the house when she's not there. She doesn't know what's going on in the house when she's not there, and she doesn't know whether Shelley came to the house, you gave her food, you gave her money, you gave her clothes. She doesn't know any of that. I know it.
Well, I didn't.
Oh, yes, you did. Oh, yes, you did. The same way you walked away, leaving her to bleed to death, is the same way that you helped your friend Shelley, because you went there to fight at your friend Shelley's request. That's why you went there.
I didn't go to fight.
Then you should have stayed home, because according to you, you didn't go to school because you were sick. Now, when your mother came home, did you tell her what happened?
No, ma'am.
No, because you were supposed to be home, so you lied to her. Again, right?
Yes.
How long did you lie to your mother?
I didn't keep making up lies, but
when for the first time did you tell your mother that you had been there and witnessed a stabbing?
When the detective showed up at my house.
That's right. So until then, you kept lying to your mother.
Well, I just didn't tell her. I didn't lie to her.
Sure you did. Stay right where you are. What's your first name?
Mary.
Take your hands off the table. Uncross your arms.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You called again between 8:30 and 9 p.m.
That's the only time I called.
And said, Shelley didn't kill you when she stabbed you, but I will?
Kelly Babert claims former friends Heather and Mary Wilson have been harassing her. Kelly says the harassment started after she was stabbed by one of Heather's friends.
How long were you hospitalized?
For like a week.
Where were you stabbed?
My stomach, both my arms, my back, and my leg.
What kind of a sentence was imposed on Shelley?
She got 2 years. I don't remember what if it was first-degree assault.
She's incarcerated for 2 years?
Yeah.
How old is she?
I think she's a year younger than I am.
How old are you?
17.
She's still incarcerated?
Yeah, she gets out in November.
Did she go to trial?
Yes.
She went to trial? What was her defense? I'm curious.
She said that it was self-defense.
Self-defense. Where was the other knife?
It wasn't.
That's why she was convicted. Now, it is your claim that these two young ladies have been harassing you. And as a matter of fact, you have protective orders. I want you to tell me when the first incident of harassment started.
Well, I can't remember which one was first or whatever, but there was like a whole bunch of stuff off MySpace and just writing back and forth. And Mary was just like talking about she's too old to fight me or whatever, but she has other people that will. And
when did she say that to you?
She wrote it on MySpace.
Can I see it, please?
I'm going to give you the police report also that verified it, because when we went to print that out, we were out of printer ink, and she took it off immediately after, but we have 3 of the different things here.
How old are you?
20.
Is there something wrong with you?
No.
Why did you even communicate at all with her?
The reason that I communicated with her was on MySpace, like she had said was true. But through a friend of ours, there's a picture of my daughter on his MySpace, or there was. I couldn't print it out because he deleted the picture, but she said that my baby was ugly.
So what?
And you can't delete male messages off MySpace to show others.
You just told me that you communicated with her.
On a phone call, but I didn't communicate on a MySpace message.
Well, what did you say to her?
I was calling her a whole bunch of names and told her that she should have kept mine and my kid's name out of her mouth. And I did say that she's lucky that I was too old to beat her up. But I never said that I had friends that could beat her up or anything like that.
Actually, it says it right here that...
Can I see it, please?
Yeah.
She called the house the same evening. She emailed, and then later that night, Kelly and I both answered the phone.
You called again between 8:30 and 9 p.m.
That's the only time I called.
and
have not called her.
said, Shelley didn't kill you when she stabbed you, but I will?
No, that is not me writing that. Why would I try to kill a little kid? I don't want to go to jail. I have a daughter. This is...
Yeah, I don't think that you wanted to do that at all. I just think that you said it just to be stupid.
Yeah, but
I don't think that you meant it at all. I think that you said it to be stupid.
I mean, yes,
now, when did you know that your sister was having trouble with her?
I knew when the detective came to our house and spoke that she had been at the stabbing. And I figured that they had problems because her and Shelley didn't get along. So I figured my sister's Shelley's friend, then obviously she's not going to get along with her either.
Your sister has a bad attitude. Did you know that?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
You know, not a bad, very bad attitude.
I'm very aware.
Does your mother know that your sister has a very bad attitude? I can tell from looking at her face. If I were her mother and had a face like that, look at me when I talk to her, it would be the last time I would look at that face, madam. It would be the last time I would look at that face. How old are you?
15.
Do you want to be a miserable, ugly person your whole life?
No, ma'am.
Well, you're starting out that way. You really are. You can either be successful and productive, or you can be a loser. Right now, you're on the road to loser. Big time. Does your mother tell you that?
No.
Well, I'm telling you, big time. You've got a miserable attitude. I can tell that from 20 feet away. I didn't even have to live with you as long as your sister did. You think that people are going to be attracted to you because you're tough?
No, ma'am.
They won't. They'll think you're an idiot. Can't you do anything with her?
I've tried. As you can see, it's complete opposite, and trust me, we've tried. It's just, if you don't have the attitude to change, nobody around you can make you change, and she doesn't want to change, so.
Do you discuss that with your mother?
Yes, me and my mom do talk about it.
You have my sympathy.
Thank you.
You really have my sympathy. I don't know what you're going to do with her. You know, when they're little, you can, deal with them better. You'd put them in a corner and you'd say, time out. And here's a good crack in your head, too. But she's too big for that.
Just gonna wait for her to move out. 18's coming.
What's with you, my dear? Why are you so angry? Why are you so angry? Why are you so hell-bent on destroying your life?
I'm not trying to destroy my life.
But you are.
I'm not.
You are. Your mother can't wait for you to turn 18 so that you get out of the house because you're making the rest of the family miserable. Is anybody at home abusing you?
No, ma'am.
Well, then I don't understand why you're so miserable.
Well,
you did absolutely the wrong thing. If a 13-year-old person, who's not an infant, sees a dog get hit in the street, they call an ambulance. They don't walk home and just, go get something to eat, relax, and do whatever. People with a conscience can't do that. You saw somebody that you knew, a child, your age, get stabbed 5 times by somebody who had a weapon, and you were able just to go home and sleep and get it. It's not important.
I didn't know what I was supposed to do.
You were supposed to get help for somebody that needed it because you were involved. You want to know why you were involved? Because if you and these other people hadn't gone with Shelley to the park, Shelley wouldn't have gone to the park. Shelley took strength in the fact that her friends were with her. You're all accomplices. Yes, you are. But for the fact that you all gave Shelley support, Shelley would not have had the courage to go to the park alone and stab her with a knife. She may have done it on another day, but she wouldn't have done it on your watch. That's why you're responsible. And then from a humane perspective, how could you just walk away and leave someone to bleed to death on the street? Now, I want you to continue to tell me what problems you've had with misattitude over here.
It was like when I was going to Brenda's house.
Tell me what happened.
I was on the 51 and I was going to my street so I could catch the bus back up to my house to get my clothes to go over to hers. And it was like in an intersection and we were stopped at the light, and then Heather and like the people that were with me at the park or whatever were with her, and she walked in front of the bus and she was just calling me names and stuff, and I was getting off at that stop, so I pulled the thing and then I got off the bus or whatever. They all turned around, and then I just went in the corner store, and when I came back out, they weren't out there.
Why do you have any contact with her at all?
I just flipped her off.
Why?
Because she didn't like me, so I didn't want to like her.
Just a second. Between the time she was stabbed and last November, why did you have any negative contact with her at all?
I shouldn't have, but that was the only time that I said anything to her.
Why? Did you say anything to her?
I don't know. I was being stupid. But I have papers here that she wrote me. She wrote me first, before that day. She wrote me.
I'd like to see them.
I wrote her back, and then she wrote me again.
Yeah, she's saying to you, and she uses terrible, terrible language. You have to learn how to, use your words. Find some other language other than four-letter words to express yourself. Stay in school. But she's really saying to you here, why don't you leave me alone? Don't you have anything else to do? Now, what you do say is, I am loyal to my friends, so I'm going to stick by Shelley 100%. I don't like having beef with people, but Shelley was my best friend, and I honestly don't even know why the whole fight started. But you should not have gotten stagged. But like I said, she is my homie, so I'm going to stick by her. Your conversation with her was stupid?
Pretty much. I shouldn't have called her, and I do apologize for that. I realize that she is the victim in the stabbing, and if I had any control over my sister, she wouldn't have been there.
Good girl. Sit down. Want to stand up, Miss Wilson? Next to your daughter? I'm going to tell you a story. Many years ago, when I was a family court judge, there was a young girl who was going to Fashion Institute of Technology, and she was on the subway by herself, and a group of girls, 5 of them, had nothing to do that day. So they got on the subway, and this girl, whose name was Marisol, was wearing big hoop earrings. This case was probably 20 years ago, but I remember it so distinctly because one of the girls said to her friends, "Run those earrings," which means steal the earrings. And they encircled her, and one girl grabbed her by the hair, another girl ripped off the earrings, and the third girl stabbed her to death. She was 17 years old. And they got the stabber, and the stabber was tried for murder and convicted. You got that look on your face that I'd like to wipe off. Don't put it back on your face. I was sitting in family court at the time, and it was my job to try the other girls who were juveniles, and I convicted them all of murder, even the ones that didn't stab her, because but for the fact that they acted as a pack, and they surrounded her, and they were there giving her support, that girl would not have had the guts to take her on one-on-one. And I tell you now that that conviction was held up on appeal. So you are very lucky that nobody arrested you. You're very lucky that they didn't charge you, because if you were in my ballpark, you would be spending some time with Shelley. Meanwhile, it's going to cost you and your family $5,000, because that's what she's suing for, and that's what she's going to get. And I certainly hope that your mother gets you some help. Otherwise, you're going to be a miserable person your whole life. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Who first?
20-year-old Jacob Scott for damages to a truck and for ripping the cover to his hot tub. Jacob says Mark is verbally abusive.
Yeah, it's case number 207 on the calendar in the matter of Horner versus Scott. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Horner, this sort of comes under the category of no good deed goes unpunished.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this your wife?
Yes, ma'am.
And?
My daughter-in-law.
You and your wife befriended Mr. Scott. He had been a friend of your son's?
Correct.
And at some point, you allowed him to move into your home?
Yes.
Where's your family?
My parents live in Plainville, Massachusetts. I'm currently residing with them.
Was there any reason why you weren't residing with them when you moved in with the Horners?
When I graduated from high school, I kind of made a promise to myself that I wasn't going to be one of those kids that stays living with their parents, and I had moved out. And my roommate at the time decided he wanted to move back in with his parents, and I still, you know, didn't want to move back in and be one of those kids. And they had offered for me to move in and pay rent, so I took them up on the offer, and I was paying $75 a week to live with them.
And you were also doing some work for them?
Yes, ma'am. I was working for Mark's wife, Susan, as a maintenance worker, and I had also worked during the Patriots games for Mark at one of his sausage stands.
That's your business?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is what the lawsuit is about. At some point, Mr. Scott was driving a truck of yours, and he rear-ended somebody and caused some damage to the front end of your truck.
Yes, ma'am.
You agreed with him that he would either pay the deductible, which was $1,000, or fix the truck.
Yes.
Did you do either of those two things?
No, ma'am. When this originally happened...
No, I'm just answering my question. So the answer is no.
No, ma'am.
And sometime later, you and your wife were going away for a holiday. Mr. Scott was remaining in the house, and according to your complaint, you said to him, no parties.
Correct.
You came back unexpectedly because there was a death in the family, and you found evidence of party.
Looked like he partied like a rock star.
And subsequently, you found the hot tub cover ripped.
Not only ripped, but there was food particles, cigarette butts, beer caps floating in the hot tub.
In the hot tub. Nasty.
Nasty.
And you and Mr. Scott then got into a heated discussion. He left.
Correct.
And when he left his bed and his bicycle, which he wants back. which is the subject of his counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
He says that you told him until you sign a promissory note to pay for the damage to the hot tub and the truck, you don't get your stuff back.
Correct.
Mr. Scott says that you told him to forget about the truck.
When the accident had originally occurred, the deductible, I was told the deductible was $500, and we had come to an agreement where I wouldn't have to pay it because the person he was supposedly selling the truck to hadn't paid anything for it, and the truck was 13 years old and had over 200,000 miles on it, and it was only about a softball-sized dent in the front bumper.
I have pictures of the truck.
Okay, so according to you, he said forget about it.
Yes.
And about the damage to the hot tub?
Actually, I have my witness here, Leanne. She's a friend of mine. She was at the house Sunday when they had come home, and she can testify that there was no rip in the hot tub cover Sunday when we were done, and we were not the last people in the hot tub cover. I had come home Tuesday night with a friend of mine, and Susan and Mark's daughter-in-law and her husband, Susan's son Peter, were in the hot tub, and we believe
You mean
that.
with the sausages and the cigarette butts?
No, that stuff had been taken out and cleaned.
Mr. Scott, the Horners allowed you to live with them, and Mr. Horner has no question asked you not to, no parties. You violated that trust by having a party.
We had actually, I had only had about 5 friends over.
Throughout the entire time that you were there, Mr. Scott?
No, but I never
Mr.
thrown a
Scott,
party
look,
there.
I want you to watch. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
I've had 20-year-olds, a whole gaggle of them. When 20-year-olds know that there's a free house, it's never just 5 people. Mr. Scott, do you understand? So if you want me
Yes,
to
ma'am.
believe other things that you're telling me, and I'm sure you do, I'm going to ask you again. How many people were at the house
There was only 5 people there.
at one time?
Yes, because I had lived in 2 previous houses before I moved in with Mark and Susan, where I'd paid the mortgage myself, and I had pretty much gotten the partying out of my system. I quit drinking. I don't drink anymore, and it's just we were hanging out, having a good time, trying to unwind on a weekend.
Well, who do you think it was that was a pig in the group of 5 that you had then, who put food in the hot tub and cigarette butts and cans? Which
It was my
one
buddy
of your
Greg.
5 friends?
It was my buddy Greg. He had admitted to it.
He had admitted to it before they found it?
Well, I had told him that they had found parts of a sausage in the hot tub and the beer caps and everything, and he said, oh, the sausage was probably from me because he was the only one eating in the hot tub.
So I assume that if you had seen him eating in the hot tub, Mr. Scott, you would have said to him, we don't do that.
I should have.
Did you see him?
I did, and I didn't say anything to him.
Did you see him smoking in the hot tub?
I did. Everybody was smoking in the hot tub.
And throwing their cigarette butts in the hot tub?
I didn't see anybody throw a cigarette butt in the hot tub. And
Well,
I
did you
didn't,
take out ashtrays for everybody?
There were ashtrays out there.
Did anybody use them? You must have been aware of that unless you had been drinking.
Yes, ma'am, people did use them. The next day, when we were going through the hot tub, we had only found parts of sausages in the filter. I didn't see any cigarette butts in the hot tub at all. And
Well,
I didn't
Mr.
see any
Scott,
beer
let me
caps.
tell you this. When you abuse a privilege, I have to assume that the people who disrespected the Horner's property also ripped their cover.
Okay.
Because otherwise, why would Mr. Horner claim, after being so nice to you, they were nice to you, weren't they?
Well, the whole relationship we had was there was a lot of verbal abuse there. Mark especially was constantly putting me down, calling me, and I'm quoting him here, he was always calling me a dumb. Him and his wife were both always calling me a dumb. He called me up, part of my French, on numerous occasions, and he used to go around bragging to everybody that I was his, because I was helping out around the house and still paying $75 a week. And I just, at the time, I had just gone with all of this because I didn't want to cause any tension because I was living there under their roof.
Do you have children?
I do.
How many children?
I have 3 children.
How old are they?
My oldest is 23, and then I have
Where is the 23-year-old?
My 23-year-old is in the service. He's stationed at Fort Campbell in Kentucky.
And then you have a?
I have a 20-year-old.
Where is that child?
He lives with his girlfriend.
Well, that doesn't warm my heart. And what else?
And I have a 16-year-old at home.
And I have a 9-year-old.
Who lives with?
Her mother.
Who you visit?
Constantly.
And support?
Yes.
Mr. Scott says that you called him a lot of vile names. Is that true?
I definitely called him a dumb.
When did you do that?
He got, I believe it was his 12th or 13th moving violation and lost his driver's license. So we particularly told him that he was a dumb for that. He lost.
Just a second.
It was my 8th in 4 years.
Just a second. 8th in 4 years?
Yes, ma'am.
He's right.
Ma'am, that wasn't the only occasion.
Just a
that he called me
second.
dumb.
I'm going to get the rest of them. But right now, that would have been worth at least a couple.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I want to find out if they did, in fact, call you a dump, if they had good reason to do that. 8 moving violations in 4 years fits.
And later today.
You had to make a choice as to whether Mrs. Ramos or your 9-year-old son was telling you the truth. Who would you pick?
I would pick my son, of course.
Well, then you would pick wrong.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mark Horner claims former tenant Jacob Scott damaged his truck and ripped his hot tub cover. Jacob is countersuing for the return of his bed and mountain bike.
I could tell that you are presenting yourself as a young man who is totally responsible and thoughtful, and you sound that way.
Thank you.
But I'm looking at these people and I'm saying to myself, this is not a couple that brought you into their home to use as a slave and berate you. So I want to find out if they did, in fact, call you a dump, if they had good reason to do that. 8 moving violations in 4 years fits.
He also had 2 while he was waiting for his suspension to come over.
And so that was worth at least 2 more.
Yeah, so they took his license away.
Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Let's sort of cut to the chase here because I don't want to torture you any further.
Thank you.
You have to... You're welcome. Because I don't want to hear anything else about you because you wore a tie to court and speak well, and I'm sure you're going to try to put your life together. This is
my friend Leanne.
Not a girlfriend?
No.
You weren't eating sausages in the hot tub, Leanne. You have to give him back his bed and his bike. He's going to pick it up within 5 days.
Thank you.
I'd like to see the pictures of the truck.
Ma'am?
What?
The one thing I'm concerned about with the bed is there was an incident back when Mark's father died where he was having some trouble with his brother, and he had actually taken pictures of him urinating on his brother's bed. And I'm just worried that they had done something to my bed while it was in their possession.
I'm not going to dignify that question with an answer. Do you want your bed back or not?
Yes, ma'am.
I have pictures of the bed, Your Honor, if you want to see them.
No, I don't have to see pictures of the bed. I'm looking at the front end of this truck. It looks like a little dent, sir. Does it interfere with its driving?
It does not interfere with its driving. There's a tow hook that was smashed off the bottom of it. The grill is cracked. I have an estimate here from the body shop.
Let me see the estimate. Okay. How much is a new hot tub cover, or how do you fix that?
It had to be replaced. Here's the receipt. It was $400.
How much was it?
It was $398 plus tax.
He's responsible for the tax. How much was the tax?
$420.
You living back with your folks, Mr. Scott?
Yes, ma'am.
What are you going to do with yourself?
Actually, in October, I'm going to be moving down to St. Petersburg, Florida.
To do what?
For a change, I'm going to become a construction worker down there. That's what I do up here, but just to get away from New England and a new scenery.
Where it's warm.
Exactly.
Who do you know in St. Petersburg?
A friend of mine lives down there. So, a close friend of mine. I grew up with her. So she's got an apartment down there. She's going to school down there. And
you might want to try that, Mr. Scott. School is not terrible.
I was thinking about it, but I work 7 days a week now. I love to work. Both my jobs, I landscape on the weekends, and I'm a construction worker on the weekdays.
You have your driver's license back?
No, ma'am, I do not. I actually get it back in 21 days.
Try to hold on to it this time, please,
yes,
Mr. Scott. Get your bed back and your bike in 5 days. Judgment for the plaintiff on your claim for $1,420. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I was like, what kind of pig would do this to somebody? Try to help him.
Can't wait to move away from this area and away from that family.
He drinks a lot and he does a lot of drugs.
I had a few friends over, and I don't do drugs.
I'm glad she saw Jake Scott as the dump he really is.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Ramos versus Trent. Step forward.
Alice Ramos is suing neighbor D'Angelo Trent for damages to her car. Alice says D'Angelo's son, 9-year-old D'Angelo Jr., crashed into her vehicle with his bike.
Mrs. Ramos, it is your complaint that this little boy right over here was on his bicycle, fell off of his bicycle, and scratched your car. You want his father to pay for the scratch on the car. Is that right? And Mr. Trent says?
Not a chance.
When did this happen?
June 19th of 2004.
Were you at home at the time?
Yes, it was a Saturday. We had had a yard sale at my residence, and this child here had been riding his bicycle the better part of the day, up and down.
What's your name?
D'Angelo Trent Jr.
D'Angelo?
Yes.
Did you know him before?
I've seen him
June
in the
19th?
neighborhood, but I didn't know whose child he was.
But you had seen him before?
Oh, yes.
For how long?
He's lived in our neighborhood as long as I can recall.
So you know him. This is the child who you hadn't seen 100 times before.
Oh, definitely.
Alice Ramos says neighbor 9-year-old D'Angelo Trent Jr. damaged her car when he crashed his bicycle. D'Angelo's father, D'Angelo Sr., claims his son doesn't own a bike.
So what did you see when he fell off the bike?
He bumped into the bumper of my car, and he fell off his bicycle. At that point, I was not concerned about my car. Myself, my nephew Andrew, and my niece all ran out to the street to see if he was okay. He seemed okay, but he fell awfully hard for how quickly he jumped back up.
And subsequently you found a scratch on your car?
When we first checked, we saw what looked like rubber scraping on the bumper of the car. And I told the little boy, before he took off, I told him, that's okay, this can be buffed out, you can go. So he jumped on his bike and he took off, more scared than hurt, I think. And 10 minutes later, he comes back with another young man on the handlebars. And he and his friend got off, and he started to show the friend what he had done. Well, unbeknownst to us, we were more concerned in the beginning about his welfare. We didn't really inspect the car. I saw the rubber scrapes on the bumper. But he's showing him another area of the car which we had not seen. And there is a scrape on the trunk.
You have a picture of it?
No, I don't.
Why don't you have a picture of it?
As I go on to the story, you'll see why.
Okay.
There was a good gash to where the whole paint and primer, everything came off right down to the metal. And it was right at the height about where the handlebars are.
So what did you do next?
I said, did you do this with your bike? And he said, he nodded his head yes. I said, well, then you can't leave. I need to talk to you. He looked at me wide-eyed, scared, started to cry, jumped back on his bike, and took off, and left his little friend there. I asked his friend, do you know who this little boy is? I've seen him in the neighborhood many times, but I don't know who he is. And he says, yes, that's D'Angelo's son. And I said, D'Angelo, I know D'Angelo. I've known D'Angelo, the father, since he was knee-high to a grasshopper, since he grew up in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So I said, can you take me to his house? So he walked.
Okay, so let's move on a little bit. Ms. Ramos, did Mr. D'Angelo say that he would take care of the problem?
Absolutely.
And that's why you had it fixed and you didn't take a picture. I'm just running ahead because that sounds like what you're going to tell me.
I didn't take a picture because I had to call the police because we could not locate him, the father.
Why?
Because there was no one at the house. The house was all opened up, windows, doors, everything was opened up at the house. There was nobody there.
Okay, so when the police came, he said he would fix...
He told the police officers he would take care of it between me and him.
Okay, stop. And you had it fixed. How much did it cost you to have it fixed?
$300.
You have a receipt?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. You weren't there.
I wasn't there.
He was there.
He was there.
How long have you known Mrs. Ramos?
22 years.
She a nice lady?
Nice lady.
Seems like a lovely lady.
Yeah.
Seems like a caring lady. Is concerned about your son?
Right.
More concerned about your son than her car?
Right.
Why don't you pay her the $300?
Because my son doesn't own a bike. He was on the pegs of that
He
bike.
was riding a bike that day. Now, Mr. Trent, you seem like an intelligent man, sir.
I am.
If you had to make a choice as to whether Mrs. Ramos or your 9-year-old son was telling you the truth, who would you pick? Who would you pick, sir? I haven't even spoken to him. I know who I would pick.
I know the child that was riding the bike, and I know he's nowhere in court.
Listen
so I don't know why my
sir,
son's here.
You weren't there. Mrs. Ramos, who you've known for 22 years,
right,
says that your son was the one who was riding the bike. You weren't home. So I'm going to go back to my original question. If you had to make a choice as to whether your 9-year-old son, D'Angelo, was telling the truth, or Mrs. Ramos was telling the truth, who would you pick?
I would pick my son, of course.
Well, then you would pick wrong. Your son, and you weren't there, was riding the bike. Look at me, D'Angelo. Isn't that right?
No.
Baloney.
Judge, when you ask her if there were two people there was a person riding and he was on the pegs.
No.
Please ask her.
She said he was riding the bike. Is that what you told me?
That's right.
Was there 2 children there?
No. When the incident happened, there was only 1 child on the bike.
When he
D'Angelo
came
Jr.
back, she said there were 2 people. He was riding and there was another child on the handlebars. And then when she went out there and confronted them, he got scared and left the other kid there. And if he's not telling you that story,
The other child
I
told me
take
the
him out to
story.
the barn. Judgment to the plaintiff in the amount of $300. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Is suing the mother of her son's girlfriend, homemaker Melody Marine, for the return of a pit bull named Samson. Melody is countersuing for the dog's expenses.
Yeah, this is case number 234 on the calendar in the matter of Gransbury Conte versus Marine. You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Pronounce your last name for me.
Gransbury Conte.
Miss Conte, you have a son.
That is correct.
Whose name is Zane. He is currently incarcerated.
He's in a rehab.
Did he go into rehab after his term in prison?
Yes.
This lady has a daughter. Her daughter has a child with your son.
Yes.
Her daughter is currently in rehab.
No, she's home, ma'am.
How long was she in rehab?
35 days.
Probably not enough.
Probably not.
But this is not about the child. This is not about anything. This is about a dog. Because it is your claim that Miss Marine
Yes.
had your son's dog, a year-old pit bull, and she took possession of the dog when your son went to prison. There was an agreement that she would do that, but after 9 or 10 months, she gave the dog away. Miss Marine says nobody wanted this dog. The dog was an untrained animal when she got him. And she's counterclaiming because she said, if you've got your son's power of attorney, you ought to pay her for the year's worth of food and vet bills. And in addition to the fact that she fed this dog and took care of him for a year, he also was dangerous and caused injury to her pet duck. And there was substantial vet bills. So that's what the case is about. Don't you have better things to think about than this?
Yes.
You've got a son who's got a drug problem. You've got a daughter who's got a drug problem. You share a grandchild.
Yes.
And how old is this grandchild?
She's 22 months, ma'am.
I'm going to get to your case in a second, but it would seem to me that you two ladies, if you were intelligent young ladies, would concentrate on this 22-month-old child who had the misfortune of having 2 drug addicts as parents.
Absolutely.
We reach an accord. Perfect. All right, so let's take care of the dog first, and then we're going to talk about the baby.
Okay.
When your son went to jail, why didn't you take the dog?
I went to Spokane to pick the dog up. At that time, I was with Carrie. I stayed at Carrie's house, and we had an agreement because I was going to take the dog to take it back, and she had asked me if I would leave the dog with her because she felt that it made it like my son was still there.
You mean her daughter?
Yeah, her daughter.
Go ahead. So her daughter said, leave me the dog because I will feel close to my man.
Yeah, exactly. And I had offered, I said, if anything comes up with the dog, if you can't handle it, anything that you need to give me a call, I had no problem, making payments for dog food or whatever. We did talk about that.
That's with her daughter?
Yeah, with her daughter. Melody wasn't even in the picture.
Okay. But there came a time when Melanie came into the picture.
Carrie had gotten sick. She had some other medical problems.
Her daughter?
Yes. Melody, from what I understand, stepped in to help Carrie with the dog.
And when was that?
I'm not sure exactly when, because Carrie and I were not talking after November because of Melody.
Why?
When I went down there for my son's trial, I had stayed with Carrie, and Melody has nothing but horrible things to say about my son to my face on a regular basis, even when she put on my wedding. Okay. That's all I heard about.
Oh, okay. So the mother was angry at your son?
Exactly. And she had interceded a letter from my son to Carrie, and she said that if Carrie's plan was to be a jailhouse bride, she wasn't going to have no part of it. She was going to give her an ultimatum that she wasn't going to take care of her child and the dog and everything if this is what her daughter's choice was going to be. I went and I, told Carrie what she had said. Carrie confronted her mom, and Melody twisted it and said that wasn't what she said, and then, Carrie wasn't talking to me.
If you had a daughter, would you want her to marry somebody who was in jail?
No.
Of course not.
No.
Because you would think that that was a bad choice.
Exactly.
So how many months did the dog stay with Miss Marine before you asked for the dog back?
April is when I found out she gave the dog away. So
Now,
it was like 7 months.
Now, what I'm asking you, so you knew that Miss Marine had the dog for 7 months.
Not her, Carrie.
How many months did you know that she had the dog, not
None.
Carrie? None. At all?
None.
Okay. And she actually had the dog for how many months?
Between 8 and 9 months.
After your daughter couldn't take care of the dog anymore?
My daughter never took care of the dog.
So that means that for 8 or 9 months you weren't checking on this dog regularly?
Oh, yes, I did.
Well, who did you check with the dog?
There's a mutual party that was taking care of my wiener dog.
You mean a dachshund?
Yeah.
Why wasn't the dachshund with you?
My husband and I had just gotten married and we lived in an apartment.
So you couldn't take care of these dogs anyway?
We were in the process of purchasing a house.
So there was a period of time when you could not take care of not only this dog, but you couldn't take care of your little dog because you were in an apartment. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So get over it. This wasn't a dog that you were attached to. This wasn't a dog that you were responsible for at any time physically. You're just suing her about this dog because you're angry at her.
No, she has no right to take my son's dog. This is about my son.
Stop worrying about your son. Let your son worry about getting his life together.
Well, he is doing that.
Well, that's good. He's in rehab, and he should worry about taking care of himself, not a 90-pound untrained pit bull.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She's cleaning up after not only her daughter, but her daughter and your son. And
She
instead of
has a
suing
restraining
her...
order. She has a restraining order against us.
Well, there must be a reason for that.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kim Gransberry Conte says the mother of her son's girlfriend, Melody Marine, owes for the return of a pit bull named Samson. Melody claims Kim is angry because she is seeking custody of their granddaughter.
Madam, devote your energies to rehabilitating your son and perhaps engaging your granddaughter in some sort of a relationship before you ruin the relationship that you have totally with this lady, who it appears to me, at least based upon what I read, has filed a petition for custody of the child. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Temporary.
Well, somebody's got to take temporary custody of her.
I have a letter here that clearly shows what Melody's intent is towards my son and towards me, you know.
So, now let's get to the expenses of the dog that you're talking about on your counterclaim, then I'm going to read the letter. You have a counterclaim because you want the cost of the food, etc., for the dog, is that right?
That would be nice.
Well, it would be nice, but she's not responsible for that. You chose to keep the dog. As far as I'm concerned, you could have given the dog away the day it came into your possession. What happened with your duck?
In the morning when I go out to open up the chicken coop and feed them and let them out for the day, Samson's just charged in before I did and kind of headbutted the duck and smacked his head on the back of the chicken coop, and his eye just gradually swelled and festered and eventually had to be removed.
So that you have to understand that Samson was your responsibility, and if you were in any way negligent in taking care of him that allowed him access to the duck, that's not her fault. Now, well, this certainly is a very angry letter. It's a letter, Miss Marine, that you wrote to Zane, I assume while he was incarcerated.
Yes.
And let me tell you how I evaluate this letter. Your son and her daughter, who she refers to in this letter as a bunch of miserable dopeheads, she refers to her own daughter that way, created a child that she now has to take care of. You have other children?
My children are grown. I have another grandchild.
How old is your other grandchild?
He'll be 6 next month.
Who does he live with?
His mother.
That's what's supposed to happen. You have children who are in their 20s and 30s, and they choose to have families, and they come and visit every Sunday or every other Sunday, and they spend 2-3 hours. They mess up your house, and then they go home. They don't come to live with you when they're 2 years old. You're having a wonderful time. You got a new husband, you got a new house, you're moving, everything is nice, and she's getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and she's taking care of kids who have the stomach flu and virus and daycare and all this other stuff, because 2 young people who didn't know enough to use adequate protection had a baby and happened to be 2 drug addicts and said, oh, I'm not, somebody else is going to take care of my problem. So your son, instead of writing from prison and saying to her, thank you for taking care of my child. If there's anything I can do, keep tabs on what it is that you're spending. I can never repay you, but at least I can help when I get out, is very interested in his dog. Who's got my dog, and who's going to take care of my dog, and you've got my dog, and I want my dog back. And she says in the letter, before you ask about your dog, why don't you ask about your daughter, Lark?
Oh, he did.
No.
That's her.
No.
That's her letter.
Much later on in the letter, clearly.
Yeah,
Before you get
letter.
angry. Before you get angry. So your son's clearly got his priorities all screwed up.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kim Gransberry Conte says the mother of her son's girlfriend, Melody Marine, owes for the return of a pit bull named Samson. Melody claims Kim is angry because she is seeking custody of their granddaughter.
You have to understand that she's cleaning up after not only her daughter, but her daughter and your son. And instead of suing her...
She has a restraining order against us.
Well, there must be a reason for that.
I haven't done anything to her.
I have no restraining order.
She said she has
it hasn't been served. It never got served.
She said she has no restraining order. What I'm telling you is, I think that you should start to mend fences before you build barriers. This lawsuit is a barrier. You have no case anyway. And I think the long-term picture that you should look at is that it's quite probable that this little grandchild is going to require 2 sets of grandparents to help raise her, unless her parents get their acts together. And so far, I see a mother who checked into rehab for 35 days, which isn't enough time. I hope that your son does better in his program, because certainly he probably has a jail term hanging over his head if he doesn't.
Yes.
In any event, you two ladies, if you're smart, are going to get together for the sake of this 22-month-old baby who probably will need you. Your case is dismissed, as is your counterclaim.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I, had hoped that my son would at least get his dog back.
I think that Kim filed the suit because I am seeking temporary custody of my granddaughter.
Oh, no, it's not. Melody thinks she is Saint Melody and thinks that she can just take everybody's stuff and do whatever she wants.
I hope that Kim can follow through with her promise and teach Lark how to crochet and sew, because I know how to cook and garden.
I just wanted to let her know that she's not going to walk all over me, and yes, I am going to watch out for my granddaughter.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Butler versus Owens. Step forward, please.
24-year-old law student Camilla Butler is suing her former roommate, personal banker Nicole Owens, for breaking a lease and unpaid bills. Nicole says she gave Camilla ample notice.
Miss Butler, you and Miss Owens were roommates. You claim she moved out prematurely, owing you 2 months' rent. The 2 months were for the months that she was not going to be there, but you claim an agreement that she would pay rent until the end of May. You also claim she owes some bills. She said she gave you 3 weeks' notice, and she left her $250 security deposit with you that more than covers any outstanding bills. That's your defense. When did you move in together?
Your Honor, we moved in together on January 22nd. That's when we agreed to move in together over the phone.
Okay. Now, you moved into an apartment that you had or she had, or that was a brand new apartment?
It was a brand new apartment for both of us.
Good. Can I see the lease, please?
Absolutely.
Who found the apartment, Miss Butler?
The defendant and I agreed to move into the apartment one day. Gage and I went up to Long Beach to...
So you looked at it together for the first time?
We found it separate. I'm sorry. I found it alone.
And you signed the lease alone?
She did not sign the lease. However,
that means that she is not a signatory to the lease. If she did not sign the lease, madam, then she is not responsible under this lease. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
So this is not the lease upon the contract that you are suing on. You're suing on a contract that you had with her, according to you, to live in the apartment until the end of May.
That's correct, Your Honor. It was an
Good.
oral agreement.
And may I see that agreement?
It was not in writing. It was oral, Your Honor.
Well, tell me about the oral agreement that you think is binding.
Okay. We agreed orally over the telephone to move in together. We agreed on an apartment together orally, and we agreed orally that she would sign the lease that evening.
But she never did.
That's true. She never did sign the lease.
Okay, Ms. Owens, let me hear what happened on the 22nd of January.
I never said I would move in and stay there until May. I never made an oral agreement that I would sign the lease that night. None of that ever happened.
Well, when she called you, did she tell you how long a lease she had to sign?
It was month to month.
This is a month-to-month lease.
Yes, Your Honor, it is. However, we agreed together, separately, outside of the lease agreement, that we would be living together until May 31st.
She didn't want to live with you after March.
Yes, she did tell me March 10th that she was entertaining the idea of moving out.
Mm-hmm.
At that day, we talked about it. I said, that's fine if you want to move out. That's fine with me. However, if you choose to move out, you need to make sure that you find somebody to move in your place.
She
agreed.
That's not true.
Well,
no, that's not true. Just because you say it doesn't make it true, Ms. Butler. She paid for March's rent, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not responsible for the lease in April or May. You could have given your landlord notice and moved. You chose to stay there.
However, we did agree that we would live together until the end of May.
Listen, people get married and they agree to live together till death do us part. 50% of those people go their own way. Just because you agree doesn't mean that she has to stay there. Now, what about her security deposit?
We haven't gotten the security deposit back since they are, I guess, the landlord is still in the process of cleaning the apartment and, I guess, seeing what needs to be done.
But you had $250 in security deposit?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now, what bills do you say she left when she left?
There was a gas bill for February, electric bill for February, garage rental for March, gas bill for March, and also there were 10 days of rent between January 22nd and January 31st, where apparently we didn't pay for it in February, so we had to pay it later, and Nicole never paid that part.
So let me have those figures, please.
Okay. Your Honor, would it be okay for Gage to testify about the conversations he had with Nicole?
Sure. Last name?
Duran.
I'm ready to hear you.
Essentially what happened is Nicole said, I'm just going to leave, and that's the end of the story, and that she gave Camilla her 30 days notice, but the landlord required that 30 days notice.
Well, let me tell you, I've looked over your damages. Your damages, you say, were $1,129.83. If you deduct April's garage rental, because she wasn't there in April, and if you deduct the $850 in rent, comes out to exactly $249, and she's got $250 in security deposit. So really the only issue is it reasonable for Miss Owens to pay you 1 month's rent to have given you a full 30 days notice of her intention to leave? Do you think it was reasonable for you to give her 1 month's notice, 30 days notice?
I didn't even know until 3 weeks prior that I would be moving out.
That's not her fault.
I know.
That's your fault.
That. Yeah, I
That's your
understand
fault. And 30 days notice is not unreasonable, because
No,
if she were
it's
to
not.
give the landlord 30 days notice pursuant to the lease, then she could have, I don't care if she went home to live with her mother. I don't care if she went home to live with this guy. I don't care if she goes into a shelter. That's not the issue. The issue is you had to do the right thing and give her 30 days notice, which you didn't do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, I understand that.
So, minimally, you owe her $425, which is your half of the rent for 1 month.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of the bills is more than covered by her security. You left the place pretty clean?
Oh, yes.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $425. That's all.
Excuse me, step out, please.
Her boyfriend recently totaled her car.
Yale, Ireland are suing Cynthia's former landlord, Sidney Neese, for the return of a security deposit, moving expenses, and damages from an assault.
All rise. Now, this is case number 40 on the calendar in the matter of Hazeltine, Ireland versus Nice. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Who is Miss Ireland?
I'm Miss Ireland.
Hazelton?
Hazeltine is my mother.
Miss Hazeltine, according to your complaint, you, not your daughter, but you, rented a room from the defendant.
Yes, ma'am.
And you found that room on something on the internet called Craigslist?
Yes, ma'am.
And signed a month-to-month lease.
I did.
When did you sign that?
March 1st, 2007.
Where had you been living before that?
I was residing in an apartment which I shared with my daughter, and she decided to move out on her own and get her own apartment. So I thought it would be good for me to move into a place where I could save a little money, maybe meet some new people, until I was able to purchase my own home.
How long had you been renting rooms?
I've been renting rooms for about 4 years.
What kind of property do you have?
I have a home in Elk Grove, California.
How many bedrooms?
5 bedrooms.
How many tenants do you have?
Currently 1.
How many tenants did you have when you had Miss Hazeltine?
Just myself and Cindy.
And it was a month-to-month tenancy?
It was.
It is your claim that Miss Neese terminated your tenancy without proper notice, and you want moving expenses, your security deposit back, and you want damages because she, you claim, assaulted both you and your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Neese says that you are not entitled to your security deposit back because you promised that you were going to stay through April, and you didn't. It is her claim that you actually assaulted her. So let's find out when the trouble began. You moved in March 1st.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
About approximately a week after I moved in, I noticed some strange behavior from Miss Neese. When I was in the home alone, and especially when I had company over, I would notice some outbursts. It seems she was talking to herself, kind of laughing out loud. She'd walk through the home when I'd have company over and bang anything that would make noise, opening and closing compulsively the garage door. The washer was close to my room, so she'd slam the washer door up and down.
Got it. Let's move on.
Okay. And I became just really uncomfortable in the home. I'd find myself, I'd sign up for overtime, I'd go to the gym, anything to avoid coming home because her behavior was really disturbing and uncomfortable. And so I noticed that it became more obvious when I had company over, so I decided to talk to her about it. So maybe I was doing something wrong. And so I came home, and so I knocked on her door. She didn't answer, so that's when I called her cell phone, and I found that she was actually at home in her room. And she came out, and I had a conversation with her, and I said, is there something bothering you, lately? Because I've noticed that you've been slamming things around, banging things. And her response was, bang? I don't bang. Bang? I don't bang anything. I said, oh, okay. Well, apparently, when my boyfriend's over, does he make you uncomfortable? No, I don't have a problem with your boyfriend. And I said, well, one night he spent the night here, and it seemed that you were really uncomfortable with that, and that's when I noticed the most noise. She goes, well, I didn't even know he spent the night. And she goes, well, it's in your lease agreement that you can't have any overnight guests. I said, well, I didn't notice that in my lease agreement. I apologize.
Was it in your lease agreement?
It was, ma'am, in my lease agreement.
Okay.
And I said, I respect that. And I said, well, that's something that I'm not sure if I can live with. I apologize. I overlooked that. And I said, if you feel real strong about that, then I think I might have to make a decision to move out. And I would go ahead and give you a proper 30-day notice. And she goes, okay, well, that's fine.
Fine. What day was that? That was
in
March?
That was, yes, the 19th of March. I sent her a copy, certified mail, which she...
May I see it, please?
Absolutely. That was sent regular mail as well as certified mail, which I have a receipt there. Miss Neese never picked up the certified copy.
Okay, and you received this letter terminating her tenancy.
Yes, I have it right here.
Good. So what happened?
Okay, so things were a little still uncomfortable in the house, so I decided to avoid her as much as possible. About a week after giving that notice to her, I came home and found that she was interviewing another tenant, which I gave her the privacy. I had went and cleaned up and got ready to go back out again.
I haven't
She then
you have a turn. Okay. Right now, plaintiff is talking.
Okay.
Go ahead.
After I had finished and cleaned up and the person had left, she had come and spoke with me and said, okay, well, when are you going to be moving your furniture out? I understand, I received your 30-day notice. And I go, well, I can start putting it in storage soon if you really need the space, because she was saying that she wanted to offer that space to the tenant. She goes, well, that's your right to keep it there for the remainder of the month. And, things seemed to be okay then, but she was still exhibiting some behaviors that I just didn't feel that.
I understand. You were moving out for a reason. Keep going.
Absolutely. And so I had received a phone call on March 31st. I was at the gym, and I received a message from Miss Neese. And on the message, she says that she's demanding that she have a face-to-face meeting with me and discuss the 30-day notice agreement and finalize me moving out. And so I was kind of, I didn't understand.
Just tell me what happened.
Okay, so I called her up, and I said, I got your message. What's the deal with me having to come over? And she goes, well, I want you to speak to me face-to-face. I gave you the same respect when you gave me your 30-day notice. And I said, well, I really don't want to have any confrontation with you. You're making me feel really uncomfortable and threatened. She goes, well, if you do not come home right now, I'm going to lock you out. And I said, you can't lock me out. And she goes, I'm telling you, if you don't come home right now, I'm going to lock you out. At that point, she disconnected the phone call. Me and my boyfriend were at the gym. I said, come on with me. She's threatening to lock me out. I need to go home. When we got there, me and my boyfriend entered the home, and Miss Neese was in the kitchen. She had already taken all my groceries out of the fridge and out of the cupboard and had set them up on the counter as if she was moving me out. I said, what are you doing? Please put my things back. You can't move me out. What's the problem? And at that point, she came around the counter of the kitchen with her finger in my face, and she goes, girl, you better shut your mouth, because in the name of Jesus, I'm going to smack the devil out of you. At that point, my boyfriend placed his body in between us because she was this close in my face, and he's that face to me, and he's like trying to block her. And she turned around, and she swung about backside of him and hit me upside the head. At that point, I grabbed my cell phone. She grabbed her cell phone. I called the police. She called 911. The police arrived, a female police officer. Police officer went and spoke to Miss Neese. Miss Neese had stated that she was going to be locking me out of the house, and the officer had stated, legally, ma'am, you cannot lock her out of the house. And she goes, don't you tell me how to run my household.
Can I see the police report, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She comes up behind me and then kind of hits me. And then Miss Neese turned around to my mom, and she goes to make a fist like she was going to strike my mom, and I grabbed her arm and I put it down and I said, don't touch my mom.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cynthia Aseltine and daughter Danielle Ireland claims Cynthia's former landlord, Sidney Neese, is guilty of an assault. Sidney claims it was the plaintiffs who assaulted her.
Now, when did the incident happen with your daughter?
Same day.
Same day?
It was a little bit later on that day when I had came. The police officers had actually left at a certain point, and my mother had called my boyfriend and I to show up. She had to go and get a U-Haul to get all of her things, and we both ended up showing up at the exact same time as my mom with the U-Haul, and that's when I arrived.
And what happened with Miss Neese?
Well, we came into the house, and she was in her bedroom, had shut the door, was in her bedroom, like the police officer told her to stay in the room. I went into this little front area that was right next to her bedroom door and started to grab furniture. And I grabbed this big glass top that was to one of my mom's coffee tables, and I started going out. And then Miss Neese came out of her room and was really mad and angry, and was directing a lot of anger at myself and at Ryan, saying that he didn't have any right to be in the house, and that was saying something about how we couldn't go through the garage door. She was telling us we had to go through the front door for some reason, and I was standing on my way to the garage door. She was really like livid and saying that we couldn't be in our house, that we had no right to be in there, and then she comes up behind me and grabs me by the back of my neck and like kind of pushes me and then kind of hits me. And then Miss Neese turned around to my mom and starts getting in her face, and she's throwing her hands wildly and stuff, and then she goes to make a fist like she was going to strike my mom, and I grabbed her arm and I put it down and I said, "Don't touch my mom." And then it just turned into a scuffle where she was just being really wild.
Okay, Miss Neese, I
Yes.
would like you first to tell me your version of the events of the 31st of March.
Okay, Saturday, March 31st, I initiated a call to Cindy to finalize things in the matter. She had sent me a letter March 20th indicating that she was going to move out at the end of April. And so I wanted to finalize things as far as obtaining the rent for April.
She already told you that she was going to give you the rent April 3rd in the letter.
Right. In my lease, it indicates, in the initial agreement that we signed, it indicates that if any rent is not paid time or in full, that they will forfeit the security. That's in item number 2 in our
What
lease.
difference does that make? She already said, "I'll pay you your rent on April 3rd. It's in her letter that she sent to you.
Because I just like to do things decently and in order. So
This is decently and in order. You called her on her cell phone.
I called her on Saturday and I asked, because she had initiated an appointment in mid-March. She wanted to see if her boyfriend could stay overnight, and she knocked on my door. Actually, I was napping, and she knocked on my door until...
Shh, don't interrupt her. I'm just asking you what you told her on March 31st. You called her, she's at
on
the
March
gym.
31st, I asked her if she had any time in the afternoon. I said I'd appreciate if we could finalize things and, get the rent. So then she started cursing at me, and she started getting really violent on the phone and calling me up.
Did you tell her she had to come home or else you were going to change the locks?
No, absolutely
not. Did you take her food out of the refrigerator? I'm speaking.
No, I didn't actually.
Did you take her food out of the refrigerator and place it on the counter?
No, not...
Did you tell the police when they arrived that you were planning on changing the locks and locking her out?
When she started cursing at me on the phone, because by the way, she's been pretty violent before, so when she came home from the gym, she came home and she kicked me, which I have a photo of the bruise on my leg from when she kicked me then. At that point, I had called the police because I had wanted to have her arrested. So when they came over, they kind of separated us, got both versions of what had happened. And so I didn't have her arrested at that point.
The police found you very agitated, Ms. Neese. According to all 3 police officers who arrived at the scene...
Well, she assaulted me. I have pictures. She admitted biting me on the arm.
There was an altercation. There's no question there was an altercation.
Well, I actually didn't touch her or her daughter. Both of them came home. She called her daughter, and they both came in, and then they assaulted me in my room. And that's why I had called the police a second time. When I was on the phone with the police, I was terrified. They said, "Where are you?" I said, "I locked myself in my room because I was afraid they were going to come in again." I have pictures of the door and from when they tried to barge in my door, and I have pictures of all the bruises. They hit me.
What do you do for a living, Miss Neese?
I'm an insurance broker.
For a company?
For myself. I have my own agency, and I'm going to school for court reporting.
So you operate out of your home or out of an office?
I'm usually on the road, but my office is out of my home, yes.
So you don't have an office other than at your home?
Correct.
And how long have you been doing that?
5 years.
You make a living at that?
Yes.
The last time you had a tenant prior to the plaintiff, what was that tenant's name?
Prior to Cynthia? She was the first tenant in that home.
So you'd never had a tenant?
Not in this home. When I was in the Bay Area, I've had tenants. She was the first tenant in this home.
Judge, I have some information regarding the tenants in the Bay Area. San Mateo County Courts, there's 3 claims regarding Ms. Niece in regards to tenant-landlord. 2 times she was the defendant, and 1 she was a plaintiff regarding the same situation, withholding deposits.
Can I see
and so
that?
forth. Actually, I didn't print it out, but if you go to San Mateo County Courts, it is public record.
You had 3 landlord and tenant actions while you were there. One is a plaintiff and one is a defendant.
I'm not sure what she's referring to, but it was just probably a lack of, my income. But with regard to
No,
this...
I'm not talking about, I'm asking you whether you had 3 previous landlord and tenant actions.
I think there was one, and it was just because I was having problems, with cash flow, but they have since been paid back.
One was that she put a stop pay on a deposit as a tenant herself.
That sound familiar?
I'm not sure what she's referring to, but I would appreciate if we could talk about this case today and why, I don't believe that I owe her this security deposit.
You absolutely owe her the security deposit. There's no question that you owe her the security deposit. You
Okay.
told her to leave. I've read the police report. You said you wanted her out that day. She left. She did not stay the month of April, despite the fact that she said she was planning on paying April's rent. You absolutely owe her the security deposit. There's no question about that.
Well, because she assaulted me, and I had to put out expense. She didn't return the key when she moved out.
I believe that this was an unfortunate circumstance, that everybody's tempers got very flared up.
Actually,
on that.
mine did not.
Well, not according
And
to
I
the
was
Miss
blatantly
Niece. According to the
I
police,
was
the only
blatantly assaulted by her and her
Miss
daughter,
Niece,
and her boyfriend had
I'm
to
telling
pull them
you,
off of me.
and the police department.
And when
I'm
she moved
speaking. When I'm
out-
speaking, don't speak.
Okay.
Clearly, not only did you claim that they were assaultive, you
I have
also. I'm
photographs of all
speaking.
the
I'm
assaults.
speaking. Do you hear me speaking? You also claimed conspiratorial behavior on the part of the police. You weren't satisfied with the police officer who came. You demanded their supervisor. 2 supervisors arrived. They couldn't calm you down. You demanded their supervisor. So everybody is in a conspiracy against you. There's something not right, Miss Niece. All of that is clearly contained in the police report. I assume you have a copy of it.
The copy that I obtained from them does not contain that information. That's not what they had given me. They
May
gave
not
me
be what
one
they
line.
gave you, but that's what I have.
Okay, can I show you the pictures of my bruise?
Absolutely.
And actually, I still have them on my body.
Absolutely. Show me.
This is a picture of when she bit me in the arm.
She absolutely acknowledges that she
And
bit you in
then,
the arm, and she
a
says she bit
bruise
you.
on my
I'm
breast.
speaking. Don't you want to hear me speaking? She absolutely acknowledges that she bit you in the arm so that you would let her go.
Absolutely, ma'am.
Okay, can I tell my version of the story, ma'am?
When I contacted the police department.
Okay. What had transpired, basically, the whole issue, when she first, in the initial ad, I indicated no alcohol, no overnight guests, and she breached both of those. She was drinking a lot while she was there, and she was having overnight guests, her boyfriend. And I never even said anything because I didn't want to get into any confrontation. But then she mentioned, she talked to me that one day, and I said, no overnight guests. Are you okay with that?
So she gave you
said,
notice.
yes.
Listen, I got it. I have other things to do today. She said, I'm moving. She sent you an appropriate notice that she's moving. Move on with it. Get to the 31st.
Right, but then she didn't pay the rent, and so I wanted
No. She has no obligation to pay the rent on March 31st. None. And if you demanded that she come home from the gym...
I didn't demand that she came home. I called her on the cell phone, and I said, do you have any time this afternoon? What's your availability?
I don't think you should have roommates. I don't think you should rent rooms to anybody. I don't. I think that you are a very, very nice lady who clearly should live alone, not with anybody else, because you can't make rules for adults. I mean, she's an adult lady. She's not a teenager. You didn't rent to a teenager. And if you don't like other people living in your house because other people aren't going to do things the way you do...
Well, it's not that I want to do things the way I want to do. But when I
rent
rented
a room.
They said no overnight guests. When
Absolutely
I rented, they
right.
set their
And she said,
guidelines,
I didn't...
And I honored them. So if she didn't want to...
Do you take medication? Do you take medication?
No, ma'am.
You should. Because I've already told you 4 times, this is the 4th time, that when I start to speak, you have to stop.
Okay.
You can't. That's something that's not working right. You owe her security deposit, which was how much?
It's $500.
Did either of you seek any medical treatment for your injuries?
No,
Yes, I did.
I'm not talking about you. Now, where did you move when you moved?
I was actually homeless for 8 days. I was allowed to stay at my boyfriend is roommate with another roommate, and he was out of town.
That's fine. Don't make up things as we go along. You weren't homeless because you were able to sleep someplace.
Well, yes. I mean, I was without a permanent...
Fine, and then you found someplace.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Whole thing is very, very unfortunate. Really, very unfortunate. You want to say anything to me? No. You want your security deposit back?
Absolutely.
You got it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. Your counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I was blatantly assaulted by her. I think it's really sad that, she got away with it.
It was just
Girlfriend, 23-year-old patient care specialist Jennifer Aguilar, for money he paid to bail her out of jail.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 430 on the calendar in the matter of Williams versus Aguilar.
Thank you very much.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Williams, according to your complaint, you and the defendant had sort of an off-again, on-again relationship for about 5 years.
Right, correct.
And sometime in September of 2000, the defendant was arrested, and you posted bail for her in the amount of $245.
Correct.
And you want her to pay back the bail money.
Right.
The defendant says she never asked you to post the bail for her. How were you contacted and advised that she had been arrested?
Well, like I said, off and on since '96, me and Miss Aguilar.
Just a second. Very slowly, and speak up, sir.
Okay. I'm sorry, we had like a little relationship going at that time, and then she came to me with her problems, and she said she'd been in jail, and I said, I would like to know what's the problem was, and she was telling me that she'd been in jail, she hated it, she was there for a while. So then I said, well, okay, if you get in trouble like that again, you could just go ahead and just call me. I'll post bail for you, only if you pay me back. So,
baloney! What kind of ridiculousness is that, Mr. Williams?
I never...
Just a second. Mr. Williams, if you're going to tell me the truth, you can't give me a baloney story.
Well,
according to the story you just gave me, you were in a relationship, she told you she'd been in trouble before, she told you she'd been in jail before, and you said to her, and she wasn't in jail at the time, you were sitting talking in your living room. If you ever get into trouble like that again, you call me and tell me, and I will post bail for you as long as you pay me back.
Prior before that, yes.
Mr. Williams.
No, I'm sorry, I said I'll post, her bail. No, I'll bail her out of jail if she get in a problem like that again. Prior before that, her friend called me telling me that she was in jail.
Just a minute. Let's get the time she was arrested, Mr. Williams. She was arrested. Who called you?
Her friend Alexis.
What did her friend say to you?
Well, she told me that Jennifer was in jail and she wanted me to post bail for her.
For Jennifer?
Right.
And you said?
And I said, only if she paid me back. And she said, yes, she would pay me back. She would come to work the next day and give me the money. So I was like, okay, cool.
So you went and you posted bail?
Posted her bail. Right.
When was the next time you saw her?
Next time I seen her was in 2000. I think it was in July when she was pregnant with my baby. That's what she said.
So you didn't see her the next day?
No.
Or the day after that?
No.
Or the month after that?
No.
You didn't see her for 10 months, right?
No. The next time I seen her, I just heard that she was pregnant with my baby. So.
And how did that come about?
She was pregnant at this time, and like I said, we had an on and off relationship.
So the next time you saw her, you found out that she had just had a baby?
Right. And she don't let me see her or nothing like that.
Your Honor, that's
just a lie. All right, so now you want your bail money back.
Not just that, but I want visitation rights. I want to see, Zarnik. I only seen her only 4 times throughout all of this.
All right, well, I'll get to that in a second.
2000.
Alexis asked him to post bail for you. What were you incarcerated for?
In September 2000, I had a domestic violence case, which then I had a warrant at the same time.
You were arrested for domestic violence and another warrant dropped on you?
Correct.
Domestic violence involving who?
My other partner, which was Alma.
Who?
It's another female.
Now, who is Alexis?
Well, Alexis is Alma. It's the same person.
So Alexis complained that you had assaulted her, and after you were taken away and arrested, Alexis called him and asked him to bail you out.
Apparently that's the way it happened. I didn't know that she was going to go look for him and tell him that I was in jail. I was in jail. I ended up getting posted out, which was
great. And then you never asked Alexis, how did your bail get posted?
No.
No, answer me honestly. Shh. Mr. Williams.
At that time, at the time that I got bailed, I was speaking to my mom on the phone and stuff to see if they could get me out. I was under the circumstances that I wasn't going to get out, so I thought I was going to stay in there until I seen the magistrate.
Ms. Aguilar, I want you to pay careful attention to my question. When you get bailed out, you see Alexis. A natural question is, did you post the bail for me? That would be what a normal person would say. You're not an abnormal person, are you?
No.
So you would say, who posted the bail for me? And Alexis told you who posted the bail for you.
Yes, she did.
Of course. And what did she say?
She told me that she had gotten a hold of Dontriel and that he had offered to get me out of jail.
Okay, fine. That's honest.
Yes.
Don't give me baloney about calling your mother and asking your mother and you don't know. That's an honest scenario of what happens.
Correct.
You get out, you say, who posted this bail? Who sprung me?
Correct.
Alexis said he did.
Correct.
Now, you were pregnant when you went to jail?
At that time in September, I didn't know that I was
I
pregnant.
didn't ask you whether you didn't know. I asked you, were you pregnant at that time?
Yes, I was.
And you've had a child?
Yes, I have.
A boy or a girl?
A girl. She's 9 months now.
Now, there came a time, according to the papers that I read, that you contacted Mr. Williams and told him that it was his child.
Yes.
Why did you do that?
Because I should have done it earlier, but at the time before I had her, I wasn't sure with myself if I was going to be able to raise her right, so I wasn't sure of keeping her.
So you decided not to tell him?
Exactly.
Now,
3 months after I had her, we met. I let him know that he can see her anytime. I've given him that opportunity.
No, that's not
correct.
correct.
It worked. He's seen her a few times, and then supposedly his stepdad told him that it was all about the money, that the baby wasn't his or something. And so then at that time, he verbally gave up his rights to her. And then he asked for a blood test.
Verbally? How verbally did he give up his rights to her?
He didn't believe it was his, and he didn't want nothing to do with her.
No.
Time,
He asked for a blood test. Right.
Okay. My partner and him went to the place to go get a blood test done. They couldn't get the baby her poke very well. She was still little, and it's hard to get pokes on babies. So they stopped it. They didn't pursue it. I then told him, if she comes back negative and she's not his, I'll pay for it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dontrell Williams says ex-girlfriend Jennifer Aguilar owes for an unpaid loan for bail.
All right, Mr. Williams, with regard to your lawsuit, you never had an agreement with the defendant to pay you back the money for bail. Your agreement, if there was any agreement, and I don't think there was with this Alexis person. In order for there to be a debt created, you have to have an arrangement with the person who you claim owes you the money. You had no agreement with her, so I can't give you your $245 back. If Alexis promised to pay you back the money, go after Alexis. And Alexis may then, I'm speaking, and Alexis may then go after the defendant. But you never had an agreement with her to pay you back. So that takes care of that. But I'm going to give you some advice now. If you are legitimately interested in pursuing a relationship as the father of this child, then what you do is you have to go to court and you file a petition to be legally declared the father of this child, and you ask for a blood test.
I was trying to do that, but she would never give me the opportunity.
She doesn't give you the opportunity, sir.
She never let me see the girl. So.
No, Mr. Williams, you're fighting me, sir. I'm telling you that in order to establish rights, your right, under the law, you have to go to court and be legally declared the father of the child. You're fading off, sir.
Okay.
Pay attention to me. This is the most expensive advice you're going to get for free. Do you understand?
Yes.
You go to court. They will direct a blood test. You will have to pay for the blood test. She will be ordered to produce the child for the blood test. That will establish once and for all whether or not you are the father of this child.
Sorry.
Then they will decide what kind of either custody or visitation you should have, and they will fix a support order so that you can help support your daughter. Do you understand?
Yes.
That's what you have to do. That way you don't have to rely on her saying, well, today you can see her and tomorrow you can't. That way you have an order.
She moved by every 6 months, so I can never really catch up with her.
Well, you know where she is now, sir.
No, I don't.
Where are you now?
I'm in Greeley.
It's the same place he lives.
I got evicted because...
Where are you now?
18th Street.
So then I would very, very quickly, Mr. Williams, go to court. You serve her with the summons. You'll take your daughter for the blood test, correct?
I have no problem taking her.
Good. And then everybody will have their rights outlined. Do you understand, Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Goodbye.
Always likes you. You may step out.
You gotta watch who you trust.
I think it was fair.
I feel like I was taking advantage. She deceived me over the years, saying that, this and that.
He knows I'm in another relationship, and we will never work.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Luff versus Barker. Step forward, please.
27-year-old homemaker Jennifer Luff is suing her second cousin, truck driver David Barker, and his wife Margaret Barker for the return of her great-grandfather's trailer. The Barkers have a countersuit for storage fees.
Miss Luff, it is your claim that a trailer that is currently on the defendant's property belongs to you and you want it back.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendants say that if you can prove that the trailer is yours, they will return it to you, and then they are counterclaiming for $900 in storage fees that they feel is proper for storing this trailer if it belongs to you. Are you related to each other?
Yes.
How are you related?
David is my mother's cousin.
Oh, where did this trailer come from?
It was bought from my grandfather, my great-grandfather, and it was placed on the defendant's property because
It
he
was
was...
bought for your great-grandfather?
Yes.
By whom?
By my son's father, my uncle, and my sister's ex-husband.
When did they purchase it for him?
I'm not sure.
When did it come onto your property?
99.
It was July of 1999.
How did it come to be on your property?
My grandfather had his own house in Lake County, and we talked him into, when my grandmother died, my cousin and everybody pitched in and bought the trailer so he could be closer to us.
When did he pass away?
In November of 1999.
What makes you think this trailer belongs to you?
Because I spoke with my uncle, who had part in buying it, my son's father, and my sister's ex-husband, and they gave it over to me. It's in, I have the title in my name. They gave it over to me.
Let me see it.
To sell it because my son's father gave me his share in it, and my uncle does not live here. So they gave it to me to sell, and I have to give them shares.
In whose name
out of it.
had the trailer been in?
The people who originally owned it, my sister's ex-husband had it.
4 people?
It had never been in their names, though. It was never switched over.
How did you register this?
I just took the title down there that they had signed.
Well, let me see.
I don't have that. I gave it to the tag office, and then I signed the title, and they sent that back to me.
Did you show this to the defendants?
No, I did not, because at the time I had only been given a receipt of change of title, and I showed that to the defendants when I tried to go get the travel trailer.
Okay, would you show this to the defendants, please?
Can I explain now pretty much?
No, just,
okay.
I want you to look at that. Okay. So this clearly is a deed to that trailer.
I guess so.
Okay. Now,
we
so
were
now
never
I'll let
showed
you,
that.
Now tell me.
Okay, pretty much what happened was, like she said, we moved the trailer on our property of July of 1999. Grandpa passed away of November of 1999. The trailer was on our property for almost 2 years without anybody coming over and saying they want this trailer or anything. June of 2000, her boyfriend, it's the father of one of her children, borrowed my son's car, and he got into an accident with it. He smashed it up. He totaled out my son's car. I put a judgment against him, which I have papers that I settled the judgment with him. Ever since then, we've been harassed for the trailer.
Go ahead.
When I sued her boyfriend, that was it. She was harassing us, making threats to us.
She wants the trailer.
Exactly.
So give her the trailer. She's the registered owner of the trailer.
But she never claimed it 2 years before that. That's what I'm saying.
That's not true. That may be. That may be. And I don't know what took her so long, and quite
Can
frankly.
I explain why?
If you must.
What took so long is because about a month after my grandfather died, my cousin, David's son, came to me and said that he had nowhere to stay, and could he stay in the trailer. That's the only reason it hasn't been moved in all this time, because he was staying there and paying them $75 a week. That's why I didn't think I owed them storage.
When was this title turned over to you?
The date?
Not until after...
Just a minute.
It didn't have anything to do with the accident.
In September of 2001.
Okay, which is when about a month after my sister moved in with me.
The date of issue, September of 2001.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, it was titled to some other relative.
No, it was titled to the original owners. Were not a relative.
They promised to put it in my grandfather's name.
No, we never promised
and they
that.
never did. Yes,
we
they
never
did.
promised
Just
that.
a second. But it was titled to somebody else.
Right.
Nobody ever put their name in it. My sister's ex-husband just had an open title in his safe and had never changed the title over. So when he gave it to me, I changed it over right away. I put it in my name.
Drug addicts
Just
anyway.
a second. Did they have a bill of sale from the owner?
Yes, they did.
Where is it?
That's at home. I did not bring that.
Shady.
So whose name did you put on these documents that enabled them to give you this certificate of title?
They had already signed the title over to me. It was an old title. They had signed the back of the title.
Who had signed it?
The original owners.
No.
When did they sign it?
They signed it when it was first purchased.
I see. So they just signed it over to...
Yes, and nobody ever signed purchaser.
Oh, okay. Anybody could put their name on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And they told you could put your name on it.
Yes, my
And title
brother-in-law, it was in his possession, and he gave it over to me.
Okay. Now, she has a certificate of title that on its face is valid.
Correct.
She is entitled to it.
Mm-hmm.
She did not become entitled to it until September of 2001 on the date the title was issued. Do you understand
Yes.
that? We're clear so far?
Yes.
After September of 2001, did you make any claim for storage of the trailer?
Yes, I did.
When?
I filed a countersuit on her, but it wasn't. It was on.
It was after they got my
It
suit.
was right.
No, I'm talking about before that.
No.
Before you got this lawsuit, the papers for this lawsuit served on you, did you ever say,
No.
look,
No, we
Yeah, we
didn't.
unless you
had-
get this trailer off my property?
Right. But I talked to her on September 3rd because she had been threatening my wife, telling other neighbors that she was going to take her glasses off and smack her. And she said that she was going to sell the trailer to some guy and take payments for $2,500. And I told her that I feel that everybody that put money in that trailer should get money out of it. I told her, I said, I know somebody would give $3,000 at least and give you cash. The next day, I went to work, and she comes there to take the trailer off the
It
property
was on Friday, September 5th.
with me not there.
At 5 p.m. That was her first and one and only attempt to try to retrieve the trailer off of our property. No warning. I've come to get my trailer. And I said, no, you're not. My daughter was a witness. My girlfriend was a witness saying
It's
that.
not necessary.
Right.
Look.
Well, just to say that I did tell her when she can make it convenient for everybody, you can come back and get the trailer.
This is just clearly an issue of title, and I must go based upon the title.
Right.
The title to this trailer
understand.
Right.
rests in her.
That's Right. fine.
She has to get it off your property.
Right.
She has 5 days to get it off your property.
Okay, well, I have pictures here to show that it's difficult just to yank this trailer off of our property. That was the other issue that occurred on September 5th, is because it's not that easy just to come in there, and we have to make an arrangement. You can't just come in there and hook up this trailer and go down the road with it.
No, so we're going to fix a date.
Okay, well,
What date do you want them to come and move the trailer?
Well, he's going back on the road to go back to work pretty soon.
You want to do it Thursday or Friday?
Friday.
All right, the court will draft an order indicating that on Friday at 12 noon, the trailer will be moved off the property. Understood?
Yes,
Your counterclaim is dismissed because there has to be an agreement for storage.
Suing former landlord, 52-year-old daycare provider Nicole Zimius for the return of rent. Karina says Nicole assaulted her with Tupperware and then kicked her out.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 184 on the calendar in the matter of Roy versus Zimius. Party, you're welcome. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Ms. Roy, according to your complaint, you rented a room in defendant's home.
Yes,
When did you rent the room?
from January until May.
And what was your monthly rent?
$500.
According to your complaint, there came a time sometime in, was it May that you had an argument?
Early June.
So you stayed there till June.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was to
You
stay.
stayed there till June.
Mm-hmm.
You had an argument over Tupperware.
Yes.
As a result of that argument, you say you were assaulted, given an eviction notice, forced to move. You want the defendant to pay you for the assault, pro rata for the rent, because you'd already paid June's rent, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
Your moving expenses, told you wanted to pay $1,543. So let's take it from. When in June did you have this argument?
June 6th.
Tell me about the argument.
Well, the morning of June 6th, I woke up and I had been looking for my Tupperware throughout that week. And
What Tupperware?
This Tupperware right here.
Those two pieces?
Yes. So throughout the week and in the morning before work and everything, that's when I had time to ask her. So on June 6th, I knocked on her door and she said, come on in. And I said, hey, Nicole, have you seen my Tupperware? And she said, no, and went on into, Karina, I need to stop condensing your food down into smaller containers in the refrigerator. And this was the third time that I had asked her for my Tupperware, and she was changing the subject when 2 other times I wasn't getting direct answers, and where she was directing me, they weren't there. Like the first time I asked her.
I'm not interested.
Okay.
Just get to the
So
point.
I said, look, if I don't get my Tupperware back, I'll just take it off my rent. And she said, well, don't you dare. And she threw her blankets off her, with which every morning.
Just a second. Are you telling me you went into her bedroom
Yes.
to ask? Let me finish my question. You went into her bedroom to ask for those 2 pieces of Tupperware?
Yes, for the
And
third-
she was in bed?
Yes.
Go ahead. So she threw her blankets off.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
But, every other
Just answer the question.
Okay,
Tell me
yeah.
she threw her blankets off and said what?
Don't you dare, and she threw her blankets off and she ran to the door and slammed it open. She said, I ate it! And she stormed into the kitchen. And I followed her. And she opened her Tupperware cupboard and forced all of her Tupperware on me like that.
Let me explain something to you. Don't get dramatic with me. Okay, go ahead. So she...
And threw all of her Tupperware on me.
She didn't throw all of her Tupperware on you.
Yes, she did. Yes,
How did she
did.
Miss Roy, you're standing there, so what you telling me? She took out each piece of Tupperware from the cupboard and threw it at you?
No, she has a Tupperware cupboard, and she put her arm on one end of that Tupperware cupboard, and with all of her force, threw it on me, and I was standing behind her, and it landed on me.
Is that the assault you're talking about?
No, and there was one other.
No. Is that the assault that you're talking about?
That's one of them, yes.
And when was the other one?
Then she kept standing there and screaming, you know, how dare you, and don't you dare, don't you even dare, Karina, shame on you, shame on you.
Shh, listen to me.
Like this.
I hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, this is what she was yelling at me.
Go ahead.
And I said, you know, Nicole, you said you were going to take care of my Tupperware, and and on Sunday your maid came, and I haven't seen him since. And she said, there's your answer, Karina. Look in that cupboard there. Look in that one. And I go over there, and I open it up, and it's kind of on the ground, so I kneel down, and there's my Tupperware, and I grab it. And when I'm down, she's leaning her whole body into me, pointing her finger in my face. How dare you? Don't you even dare. Shame on you. That's it. I want you out of here. And she hit my head with her finger. She had all of her weight on me.
Next. So what happened next?
So then I got up, and I'm just like backing away. I'm walking out of the kitchen, you know, and she threw her hand up. Damn you, how can you do this? And that's it, Karina, I want you out of here in 30 days. And I'm standing there, and we're standing in front of Anna now, okay? And I said, good. And Anna stood up and said, hey, and looking directly at me, and said, hey, the babies, as she's looking at me. And I had not said anything through this whole entire time.
What did she say?
The babies. The babies.
Hey! Quiet. What happened next?
Well,
you went to work.
As Anna was saying.
You went to work?
Yeah, I went to work.
And what happened when you came home from work?
There was a letter in my room.
And what did the letter say?
It said, because of your histrionics and verbal assault this morning, Anna and I agreed that for the sake of the daycare children, you are to leave the premises as soon as possible. I am hereby giving you a 14-day notice.
Okay. You don't deny writing that note?
No.
Good. Okay. Where did you come to a 14-day notice?
In my contract, Your Honor, I have it's a month-to-month lease.
Yes, so there's usually a 30-day notice.
Right. And because of the daycare, should there be any behavioral or safety issue, I exercise the right to use the 14-day. And also the tenant.
Is there a notice in your agreement giving you the right for a 14-day notice?
Yes.
Let me see it.
Yes, it's right here. And,
can I see it, please?
Yes.
Good.
There's also a 48-hour, but that's for something more serious like underage drinking.
Let me just see.
In my home.
Okay. With at least 14 days' notice given and acknowledged in writing by both parties. Okay, so you gave her a 14-day notice.
My assistant and I decided. Okay.
So that's on the 6th?
Mm-hmm.
When did you move out?
Moved out on the 9th.
30 days, half September, April, June, and November. So what we're talking about is 21 days. Is that right?
No, so I had paid June's rent on May 21st to stay till June 21st.
Oh, okay, so that means that you're only entitled to 12 days.
Yes.
You have a problem with giving her her prorated rent?
I do, Your Honor, because I gave her the 14-day notice.
She moved out before.
And she had announced to me that she would be moving out the following Saturday, which was in a couple of days. And my exact words were, Karina, you're free to move whenever you want, but the room is yours until the 21st.
That's just because you say so.
And
listen to me. Just because you say so doesn't mean that that's so. You gave her a 14-day notice.
Right.
Because you say there was some egregious reason why you gave her short notice. If
Yeah.
she decides not to stay there until that time, that's her prerogative. You have to give her her prorated rent back.
But, Your Honor, the problem is, although she physically moved out, her property was still in the room.
All of her?
Absolutely. No, not all of her property.
What?
The day after she moved, she said she needed to bring her answering machine in because her phone...
What was in her
Well,
room?
there was a pole lamp, and then her ashtray, and she said Saturday night when she moved out, I'm really tired, my ashtray is in there, I didn't even wash it, I'll get back to it later. And I did not even go into the room to clean or anything. When I did go after the 20th, when she got her security deposit back, then I went in there, and these two items were in the closet still.
Are those the items?
The lamp, she had said when she was moving, she said, you can either give this away or throw it away.
Then you should have done that.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Karina Roy says former landlord Nicole Zimius assaulted her with Tupperware.
Okay, what items do you think suggest that she still occupied the room? The teddy bear and the cup?
Well,
Listen to me. Speak.
the lamp.
The lamp she told you to get rid of.
The ashtray and these two things. With the kind of ups and downs that we've had in her stay, I was not about to even go into the room, and I didn't.
That's fine. That's your prerogative. You did, you didn't. I don't care whether you did or whether you didn't. Clearly, you gave her a notice because you didn't want her around. You felt as if you wanted to give her 2 weeks to get out. That's fine. I find that she elected to move out before. I believe she's entitled to do that. She doesn't want to be there if you don't want her there. She moved out. She gets her portion of the rent back that she paid, because I don't consider that a cup and her teddy bear leaving property in the house so that you couldn't rent the room again if you wanted to. All right. Now next, you want her to pay your moving expenses. Is that right?
Yes.
Wrong. So we've just dealt with that. You don't get your moving expenses. Now, damages due to the assault. I'm prepared to hear you if you want to tell me what your damages were as a result of the assault.
Because of this, I mean, the way I physically felt, okay, was just like somebody just ripped my, I mean, I just felt hollow in here. I mean, I did not feel stable at all. My driving
You're not
has
stable. Anybody that walks into a bedroom, somebody's sleeping in their bed, to ask for 2 pieces of Tupperware and start an argument with them while they're in bed over 2 pieces of Tupperware isn't too stable.
Okay.
To start with.
Well, because
$500 divided by 30 equals $16.66. Clear that?
Yeah, just multiply.
What?
Just multiply.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. Wait a second. I'm learning how to use this machine.
Okay, I'm trying to tell you.
Just a minute. Times 12 equals $199.92. That you are entitled to. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $199.92. Thank you. You want to give her back a bear?
Certainly.
Perfect. Bird, would you take care of the bear and the cup?
Sure. Parties are excused. You may step out.
She fought with all the tenants. She fought with me. She fought with my 2 sons who don't even live there anymore.
Absolutely not. I'm such a meek, shy person. I bowed down to them and I stayed out of their way.
And now the next case.
All parties on Habib versus Fields. Step forward, please.
27-year-old tutor Nafisa Habib is suing her ex-boyfriend's friend, 28-year-old bakery worker Anise Fields, for smashing her windshield with a baseball bat.
Ms. Habib, both you and the defendant have a child.
Yes.
And that child was fathered by the same person.
Yes.
So that's how you know each other.
Yes, ma'am.
And I would assume that you don't like each other.
I have no problem with that.
Well, then you think she doesn't like you.
I guess, yes.
Because it's your claim that she smashed the windshield of your car.
Yes, ma'am.
When did this take place?
On January 12, 2001.
Where?
His uncle's house, where he was staying there at the time.
This is the father?
Yes.
Of both children?
Yes, ma'am.
You have any other children?
Yes, I do.
How many?
4.
4 other ones?
4 children altogether.
Altogether. How old is your child?
My child is 3.
And yours?
He's 3. My child's 1 month older than her son.
Tell me how it happened that you happened to be in the same location.
January 12th, he called me and asked me to bring over my daughter. He doesn't see her a lot, so I brought her over.
To where he was staying?
Yes. While we were there, I was downstairs in like the lounge area in the basement, and he was upstairs. And I heard some banging on the door. I thought he had locked himself outside the house. So I called upstairs, Rude Boy, did you lock yourself outside?
What's his name?
Rude Boy. By that time, he came downstairs. He said, Anise is outside.
Anise?
Yes.
That's you?
Me. Yeah. I said, are you going to let her in? He said, no, she's upset. She's going to want to fight. I said, fight who? That's when she busted the basement window. She had a bat in her hand, and I saw her. Rude Boy ran upstairs. I stayed downstairs. They were outside. I heard her yelling, what do you think, I'm stupid? Is she in there? Is she in there? I heard him yelling. He said, I'm going to call the police. He came in the house. Apparently, she left. He came downstairs. He didn't call the police. We started cleaning up the glass. At that time, I said, Rude Boy, let me drop you off at work. When I went to my car, opened my door, I saw the glass on my seat and saw she bust my windshield. I switched cars with my father, and I went to her house. She invited me in. We talked for a while. The end result of the conversation was that Anise said she was going to pay for my windshield when she got her school money because she didn't have any money at the time. The very next day, after Anise busted my windshield, she called me, and she apologized continuously. Nafisa, I'm sorry. This is not me. I don't go around busting girls' windshields. I felt sorry for Anise because I know how it is for a brother to allow you to believe that it's all about you, and it's not all about you. So I felt sorry for her. I said, no problem, Anise, when you get the money.
So, bottom line is, you saw her with a bat break the basement window.
Yes.
But not your car window.
No.
But she did, in fact, tell you that she would pay for it. Okay, let me hear you.
She's lying. Basically.
Why don't you just tell me what happened? You went over
I wasn't there. No, I was not there. No.
Just a second. Are you telling me that you never went to the house?
Yes, that's what I'm telling you.
I think you have to come up with a better story than that. I'm going to tell you why. Because I believe her when she says that you came to the house. I believe her when she says that she saw you with a bat in your hand and that there was glass downstairs at the basement window. So I think we're going to start over again.
She's lying. He lives there, so he was there. So he can tell you, I was not there.
All right.
She's lying. I don't know. My basement window never got broke. I don't know how you could see somebody break the basement window from the basement. I don't know what she's talking about. Prior to this, she said I broke her window, busted her car up. She told my grandmother I did it. She let a friend of mine use her car. He crashed her car up. She said I did it. I don't know nothing about what this is about.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, Miss Judy, Judge Judy. I'm trying to be calm because I want to cry because I cannot believe that Jamar would sit up here and lie. He was supposed to watch Hanifa, but he said that he couldn't watch her. I didn't even know he was going to be here. Boy, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Shh. Don't talk to him.
I'm
Can
sorry.
I see the police report, please?
Yes, ma'am. Miss Judge Judy, he also told me, Rude Boy himself told me that Anise had intentions several times to pay you for your car windshield, but things that came up. When I went to her house, I met her mother, I met her daughter, Asia.
You brought your daughter to
I met
my house.
her son.
No. Okay, just a minute. Wait.
Oh, God.
I can't believe you, Rude Boy.
Can't believe you.
Oh, it's over.
Never was anything.
Whatever, Rude Boy. Whatever.
If you talk amongst yourselves, you're leaving.
Excuse me.
Tell me why you reported this to the police 2 days later.
Well, I believed in when she said she was going to pay me for the windshield, and when she called me the very next day after it happened, I believed her. I believed it. My father said, Nafisa, cover your tracks. If you get a police report, then at least you have that in case you have to take her to court. I did not believe it was going to have to go this far. It's only $183. I'm not asking her for cab money or the inconvenience she put me. My sister had to come and get me several times to pick up my children. I worked 2 jobs. I raised 4 children by myself. I don't have time for this. This is so juvenile.
Mr. Jones, do you currently have a relationship with any of the 3 or 4 women?
This one here.
This
No,
one.
he doesn't.
Shh,
I'm sorry.
No.
I apologize.
No.
I'm sorry.
So you currently have a relationship with Anise.
Yes.
How long have you had that relationship with Anise?
Since last year, we started dating each other and being in a relationship last summer.
How many children do you two have together?
1.
Your other 2 children, do they have the same mother?
No.
What do you do for a living?
My teacher aide, bus aide.
Nothing.
Shh.
I'm sorry. I apologize. He's lying. I'm sorry.
Well, how was she taking me to work if she came over?
Just listen to me.
She's making up stuff.
Listen to me.
I'm sorry. I understand. I apologize.
Teachers' aid, bus aides don't
Yes.
make a lot of money.
Small money.
Small money doesn't make 4 children.
No, I make 4 children, but my money take care of my children.
Impossible. Impossible. Okay. Do you work, Anise?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I work at a bakery.
How many children do you have?
5.
Do all 5 children live with you?
Yes.
You make a lot of money in the bakery?
No, I don't. I also go to school.
How is your family subsidized?
From me working and going to school.
How much money do you make at the bakery?
I make $5.50 an hour.
$5.50 an hour gross does not support 6 people, and he certainly doesn't make enough to support you and your children. What kind of work do you do?
I tutor children full-time, and I work at a floral shop part-time.
How many children do you have?
4.
What other support do you get for your children?
I receive food stamps, and that helps a great deal.
How old are your other children, Mr. Jones?
10, 2.
So you have a new child, not with either one of these 2 women.
Yes.
And shortly after that child was born, you renewed your relationship with Anise. Is that right?
Yes.
Excuse me, miss.
Shh. $183 is what the windshield cost you?
Yes, ma'am.
Pay it. $183, judgment for the plaintiff.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I have no beef with Anise.
Stealing her dog. Cynthia is countersuing, claiming Elizabeth filed a false report with Child Services.
Order. All rise.
Now, this is case number 56 on the calendar in the matter of Ellison versus West. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Miss Ellison, you and Miss West were friends.
Yes.
Your complaint states that you had an argument over something.
The children.
And subsequently, you were receiving some harassing calls. You decided that you needed some protection, so you got a dog.
Yes.
It is your claim that the defendant, in retaliation for something, enticed the dog onto her property and subsequently adopted the dog You want the dog returned to you?
Correct.
Or its value?
Yes.
Okay. How long have you lived in the same neighborhood?
About 1.5 years, 2 years.
Is that how you know her, from the neighborhood?
Yes.
When did you get the dog?
The 15th of March.
Where did you get the dog?
I used to be a dog groomer by trade, and one of my former customers asked me to take her because her daughter had very severe allergies. I had to get rid of the animals, unfortunately.
What kind of dog is it?
She's a Dalmatian black lab mix.
She's a mutt?
Yes.
So you took the dog?
Yes.
Didn't pay for the dog, but you
No,
took
ma'am.
the dog. Where did you put the dog when you brought the dog home?
We tied the dog outside in the front because we were having a lot of harassment problems.
Is it a fenced yard?
Not in the front, no.
What was she tied with?
She was tied with a brand new chain and collar, and that we bought her before we bought.
Did the dog have a license on the collar?
No.
So that there was no identifying mark on the collar?
No.
What time did you come home from picking up the dog?
About 5:30, 6 o'clock.
And what time did you find the dog missing?
I didn't put her out until about 9:30.
At 9:30 you found the dog missing?
Yes.
What did you do?
First, we went out searching for her all over the neighborhood. And my husband said, she's probably down at Cindy's. At first, I didn't think Cindy would, go that low, but she did. And we made signs, and we put the signs out early the next morning. My husband...
Where did you put out the signs?
On the telephone poles, one being right beside her home, and another one down the street, and all up and down Galbraith Road, which is the off street from where we go to.
Okay.
I called the SPCA, who had told me that the dog wasn't there yet. I have a lost dog report where I filed the lost dog report that morning.
I'd like to see it, please.
I also got a copy of the sheltered animal report. When I went to go to the SPCA on the first day, the very next morning at 10 o'clock, the animal was not there yet. It wasn't until 1:35 until the animal was picked up by Cindy. She called the SPCA.
We'll get to her in a second. Okay, now how did you find out the dog was with Miss West?
My daughter went to a local pharmacy around the corner from where we live, which views the backyard of Mrs. West's home. She came in crying, saying that Lacey was in Cindy's backyard. So we went back in the back alley.
When was this? How many days
that
ago?
was a week. It was on the 28th.
Okay.
I said, okay, let's go make sure, Ripley. I said, because, we want to make sure before we call the police.
Okay, so the answer is, was your dog, and did you call the police?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
Called the police, you went to her home with the police?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
And she showed the police the adoption papers because she had since adopted this dog?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. West, when did you find this dog?
On the evening of the 15th, had to be about 11:30 at night. It was running freely through the neighborhood. I have a videotape where this dog ran, in an hour and 15 minutes, it ran 17 times through my yard.
Why would you videotape this dog?
I have a security camera on my house because this woman continually harasses me.
Is it on all the time?
Yes.
Go ahead.
And I called the SPCA. It was running out in the street, back and forth in the yard. And I opened the door and I said, "Hey, puppy," and the dog walked right in my house. Then, I believe it was Monday, I had called to see if the owner had claimed the dog, and they said that no one had called for the dog, and I went down to see her. Owner has 5 days to claim. I waited 6, and then I went with my son and adopted the dog.
Did you see any signs that Miss Ellison put up in your neighborhood?
No, that's a complete lie.
You didn't see? No,
No.
I don't know whether it's a complete lie or
I
not.
didn't see any.
The answer is you did not see
No,
any
I didn't
signs.
see any.
Okay. Now let's get to your counterclaim for a minute.
Okay.
Your counterclaim is that the plaintiff vindictively called protective services, uncross your arms, called protective services and said things about you with regard to your children, causing your children to be removed from your custody for over 3 weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so I'd like you to tell me about that because that's your counterclaim.
Yes. In the period when we were friends, there were several times that she stipulated to me that no matter what happened, not to call 241 Kids because she runs a very filthy household. And so we had agreed to that. If we hadn't, I'd have called Children's Services before she did. But I give my word,
I don't want to hear
it.
you. Go ahead.
On March 1st, Children's Services knocked on my door claiming that they had got a report for filthy house. Supposedly there was garbage in my house up to here, that I beat my kids, that I didn't feed my kids, and several other allegations.
Okay.
And my children were removed from me until there was a parental screening done.
Just a second. That's not what Protective Services does. They don't come in, remove children for 3 weeks while they do an investigation. When they receive a report, they come in and they say, can we come into your house? And they come in and they make certain observations. So if they came into your house, they must have found your house filthy.
No.
Did they speak to your children?
Yes.
And it was at that time that they removed the children?
My children weren't actually...
Answer. Was it at that time that they removed the children?
They were placed under a safety agreement.
Okay. So they allowed the children to remain in your home under an agreement with you. Is that right?
No.
With whom?
My children were not allowed to be left alone with me whatsoever. I either had to have someone stay with me or they had to go to my mother's.
Okay. So they were allowed to stay with you if there was someone else in the house. And that was after they spoke to the children?
It was...
After they spoke to the children?
No.
Wrong.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Elizabeth Ellison says neighbor Cynthia West stole her dog in retaliation for calling child services. Cynthia is countersuing for defamation of character.
When was the agreement entered into that you would not be left unsupervised with your children?
On March 1st.
So this is before the dog disappeared? Was there an investigation?
Was there an investigation?
That's my question.
Yes, I have an open case.
So your case was not marked unfounded. It is still an open case.
I can explain to you why.
Just answer my question.
Okay, yes.
The case was not marked unfounded, which means that there was no merit to the claims. It was an open case, which means it's still outstanding and subject to investigation.
It'll be closed the end of this month.
Who knows?
I do.
Do you have any reports from social services?
That's confidential information. It would have to be subpoenaed.
So that you don't have them?
Exactly.
Do you have any initial reports that were furnished from social services?
Those are not public information.
Okay. Is this the first time that social services has visited your home?
Oh, yes.
The first time?
First. Very first.
Why would you and the defendant talk about not calling social services? I mean, I've had lots of friends in my life. One of the things that we certainly never talked about was never calling social services about how we are as parents. We talked about a lot of other things. We complained about our husbands, the local market, but we never had a discussion about social services. Why would you have an agreement with her not to call social services, Miss West?
That was a stipulation that she set down, not I.
No, it was a stipulation you sat down by
Now,
being
okay,
a
just a second. Miss Ellison, you interrupted again, but I'm going to come back to you for a second. I'm not going to ask you whether or not you placed this call.
It's an anonymous hotline.
It was because it's an anonymous hotline, so I'm not going to ask you whether you did or not. But it is your belief that because she thought that you placed this call, she retaliated by taking the dog.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I have proof she took the dog.
Let me see.
This is a Coleraine Township Police Department police report. If you would read it, you would see at the bottom, it states that she admitted taking my dog.
Let me see.
And she also knew it was my dog. She told him when she got there. When he got
Don't
there.
tell me what she told him. I'm looking it up.
Sure you don't have a copy of that?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm going to give both of you 1, 2, 3, then you're out of here. Do you understand?
Yes.
Did social services come to visit your house?
Yes, ma'am. I have a copy of my...
Can I see it, please?
Human resource.
Because I
thing.
see that after she believed you
You
called
can
on
also...
her.
Yes, she did.
She
called on
you.
me.
All right.
May I comment?
Sure.
I did not make that call. I'm not the only person that knows she runs a filthy house.
Okay. All I can tell you is she has this document here, which you clearly do not have, which indicates that her case was immediately closed.
They made a surprise visit, just like her. Sorry.
I like to conduct a very orderly place. Clean, neat, and orderly.
Go ahead.
You don't have this, that your case was closed. Is that right?
No, because my case is still ongoing. Would you like for me to answer that why? You had asked me that before.
Sure.
The reason my case is ongoing, part of the social interaction with her and I, we'd smoked marijuana together. I was a recreational user. She
That's
gets high
a lie,
all
Judge.
day,
I don't
every
want to
day.
hear.
That's what...
Shh, shh. Listen to me. Case closed. Case still open. That's the objective fact.
Because I admitted to my recreational use is the only reason I have an open case.
Because they caught you at the door, you and that Nicole, your
listen.
witness, smoking a joint.
Listen to me.
And you know what
Don't-
happens in my house, huh?
What? You don't understand? You're going to both be out of here. Well, Miss West, police officer attributes the following to you. She stated that Miss Ellison had her kids taken away, but all she did was take away her dog, Miss Ellison's dog. So she, quote, went pretty light on her. That's what you told the police.
Can I respond?
Yeah, the police don't lie.
Well, no, I'm not going to lie.
Shh. You don't get it. Yes, I'm waiting for you to respond.
Okay. This was after she had come to my backyard and was cussing and hollering that I had her dog. That was the first point at which I was aware that this dog had previously belonged to her. And I did tell them that, but like I said, it was after that she had pointed out to me, you have my dog, and a few other explicit words mixed in there. But she had pointed that out to me. So at that point, I did know that it was her dog. But that was the first time that I had knowledge of that.
Who knows? Okay.
Nobody tapes the dog in a video yard.
Listen to me. Listen to me. I want you to be quiet.
Okay, you're right. I'm sorry.
I have several things to consider. Right now, the dog has been with you for quite some time. Dog is integrated into your household?
Yes.
And you, I assume, take good care of this dog?
Yes.
Good.
No.
I don't want to hear from you yet. I'm primarily concerned about the dog, the children involved. Right now, she is the legal owner of that dog, and your lawsuit wants either the return of the dog or the value thereof, which you place at $500. Quiet. That's what your lawsuit says.
The lawsuit is for, the $500 is for harassment. We would like to have the dog back. That's all we've ever wanted.
What I'm telling you is, she is now the legal owner of this dog, and I have to make a judgment as to how I'm going to resolve your lawsuit. I believe that there is a substantial possibility that Miss West did, in fact, come to your property, unchain the dog, and take the dog. That is a possibility. It is also a possibility that the dog got free.
I agree.
And was, in fact, roaming around. What she did was she did not secrete the dog. She brought the dog to the ASPCA immediately. You had an obligation to be vigilant and you could go to the ASPCA every day to see if the dog was there. The dog, I'm
called
speaking.
every day.
I don't care, call. I'm speaking. You had an opportunity to go to the ASPCA every day for day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look for your dog. You did not do that. So put your hand down. So since the dog has been in her custody, you had an opportunity to go and pick up your dog. You did not do that. She did not hide the dog. And there is, again, that possibility that your dog did, in fact, get out. Just get out. She probably knew it was your dog. Not sure. But I don't indulge myself in potentials or possibilities. I'm speaking. So I am awarding you $500. Even though you did not pay for this dog, I believe that Miss West knew or should have known that this was your dog and that there was a bit of retaliation in her keeping the dog and not calling you and letting you know that she had found the dog, and that there was something sneaky about the way she went about going there and legally adopting the dog. But she has legally adopted the dog. The dog is hers. It has been with her and her family for a long time. Now, Miss West, I'm going to get to your counterclaim, which I am dismissing. What state do you live in?
Ohio.
The state of Ohio does not remove children from their home without cause for 3 weeks without taking a parent to court. Period. End of discussion. No state does that. The state may say, I'm going to give you a warning, clean up your house, but if the state of Ohio is still part of this union, there are certain due process rights that you have. And if your children were removed from your home, as you state in your claim, as a result of what is an anonymous call, and it may well have been Miss Ellison who called, may well have been, but it doesn't make any difference. She did not remove the children from your home. The state removed the children from your home, which means that they found some cause to remove the children from your home. Since you do not have the paperwork to show me what the cause was, I have to assume.
I do have.
Well, you do have now. Swell.
I do have the paper for the safety agreement. I do not have the letter that she has. I left that at home.
I don't want to hear the letter for the safety agreement. I want a report from the state indicating why they removed the children from your home.
This is what this is.
Well, I'll take a look at it. That doesn't look like, I don't want to hear from you. You're finished.
Okay, no problem.
Well, they clearly found you using drugs.
I admitted to it. They asked me
Whether
the
you
question.
admitted to it or they found it, One of the stipulations was adults will refrain from all illegal drug use in the home. Who else lives in the home other than you and your 2 children?
My husband. Nicole's staying with us right now.
Excuse me?
Nicole Lake, this lady right here. Her mother left and went to Florida, so she's staying with me.
She was the one
so
that found
she can stay.
doing drugs.
Shh. Don't want to hear you. What are you showing me? I read this already.
In the highlight, it shows that Miss Ellison admitted to being the one who called 241.
What difference does it make? The police had cause. The police had cause to remove your children. They either saw or you admitted to using drug use. And listen to me, Miss West, I'm not stupid. If the authorities came to your home and found nothing untoward in your home, found you perfectly straight,
they did.
Making matzo ball soup in your kitchen, right? And you just volunteered to them that you used drugs, volunteered to them, you must think that I was born 2 days ago. That's not what happens. They had evidence. They either found you in a condition of being under the influence, they smelled something in your home, they found something in your home, something happened, and then you admitted that you used drugs. But a normal person doesn't invite authorities into their home and say to them, let me tell you everything. Sometimes my house isn't neat and sometimes my kids' clothes are unclean, but the worst thing that I do is use drugs. We understand each other. Your counterclaims dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
कोर्ट तो बगैर वाली मैं चैलेंज है कोर्ट तो बगैर वाली का चैलेंज है मुझे शुक्रिया ये उयो गेम है जेडी रोज तो आना है ना उयो मैं देखना बड़ा कौन है ना भेजो ना ये आज तू ओ देखना कोर्ट तो बगैर वाली गेम याद रखिए That's a challenge game. कंचाला चलेगा चेता बोल जैसे बैठा किन्ने ना मैं चेता बोल भी जब मैं बोलूँ तेरे को देख ले देख ले से तुम हमारे तो कोर्ट तो बगैर गेम है तेरे गोटी बजा ले ओके दो मिनट दी कि 5 मिनट दी निकल बिक्री आके इधर गोटी दे चाचा हाँ गोटी दे चाचा ने बिक्री जोटा लग गया के गोटी दे चाचा ने बिक्री गोटी दे मैं तो आप ऑनलाइन काका इंस्टॉल की थी यल्ला की थी है चाचन गोटी दे बितरी बस एक घड़ी मारने गोटी तो मार ना भतीजा ना भतीजा ओ माड़ा भतीजा 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 ओ भतीजा बस ये 2 गोटियां में लगानी है अच्छा मैंने दाड़ा बन के कोर्ट तो बगैर गेम चैलेंज गेम ख्वाब तो चेक कर तेरे ख्वाब आधे भी चेक कर दाना चेक कर दाना गाना भी साथ दे रहा मेरा ओके तू रिस्क ले लिया रिस्क मैं भी लवांगा ले रिस्क नहीं भाई मैं बढ़ गया ओए 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 बस गेम खत्म होने के बाद यस इन्हें खेल लीजिए Oh my God.
तो तुम लूडो खेल लेंदा ना कोनी वही अल्लाह ने कोट तो बगैर मैं करनी
लो मुरचाला हो जा बन गया कोट चलो होगी तो मुड़ के होगी गेम मुड़ भी जीत जाती तू किस्म की करे मैं कोट नहीं करांदा मेरा के जोड़ा लग रहा है मैं पागल हां तुमने समझा की है हां
चल
मैं चाला बुला दूंगा यार ना चाला बुला दूंगा यार ना चाला वादा आ रही है हमारा तुम्हारे साथ बच्चे
ओ 5 मिनट तो